Chapter 768. Li Junqing was originally sitting in the car waiting for Yijin. When he heard Yijin say that he had sprained his ankle, he put down his phone and quickly went into the shogi company. He didn't even care if his actions would be seen by others. He got off the car and walked towards the shogi company. With his outstanding looks and tall stature, he received a lot of attention when he entered the shogi company. However, Li Junqing ignored all of them. He quickly walked to the elevator and found Yijin standing on one foot with one hand on the wall. Yijin. He rushed forward and looked at her feet with concern. How are you? Are you all right? Li Junqing came a little faster than Yijin had imagined. When Yijin saw him appear so quickly, there was a hint of surprise in his eyes. In fact, she just wanted to annoy Yiningen. In fact, she really didn't think Li Junqing would come in. After all, there were so many people here. What if someone recognized him? Uncle Li. Where are you hurt? Is it serious? Yiningen thought that Yijin was joking before. She didn't expect that she could really call Mayor Li. Her face was distorted for a while. She reluctantly took a step forward. Uncle Li, she didn't sprain herself, she just, shut up. Li Junqing didn't even look at Yiningen. He looked at Yijin's motionless figure and picked her up. Yijin's body was suspended in the air, startling her. She instinctively wrapped her arms around Li Junqing's neck. She didn't expect Li Junqing to be so strong even though he looked thin. He carried her and strode outside. From the beginning to the end, he didn't even look at Yiningen. Yiningen was very angry. He glared hatefully at Yijin and his companions' backs as they left, a flash of resentment in his eyes. Yijin, we are irreconcilable enemies. When Yijin was carried out by Li Junqing, she noticed that many people were looking in her direction. She was very embarrassed, but she had already acted. She could only bury her head in Li Junqing's chest and try her best to reduce her presence. Li Junqing put Yijin in the back seat of the car and followed her into the car. He instructed Secretary Qin, who was in front, to drive. Secretary Qin, hurry to the hospital. After that, he looked at Yijin. Which leg did you sprain? How are your injuries? Is it serious? Yijin didn't say anything. She just stared at Li Junqing. Her heart was beating fast. She bit her lip and looked at Li Junqing with a complicated gaze. She had never thought that there would be someone who would stand by her side for no reason at all. To her, this feeling was simply too inconceivable. She still remembered the first year when Yiningen followed Chen Wan into the family. At that time, she, who was still young, also thought of building a good relationship with Yiningen. However, after being framed by Yiningen several times and knowing that Chen Wan was pregnant, she dispelled this idea. What made her sad was not Yiningen's frame-up, but Yi Nanshan stood on Yiningen's side for no reason and blamed Chen Wan and her mother. Yiningen was a sweet talker and often coaxed Yi Nanshan to be happy. She was angry at first, but she got used to it. Yi Nanshan was used to blaming her no matter whether it was her fault or not. Today, she did it on purpose, but she didn't expect, which ankle did you sprain? Does it hurt? Li Junqing realized that she didn't speak and was a little worried. He bent down to check her feet. Come on, let me see. Yijin subconsciously shrunk her feet back. I didn't sprain it. It was a little difficult for her to say these simple words. She bit her lip and felt a little uncomfortable. I didn't sprain it. I just wanted to anger her on purpose. Her voice was like a mosquito. This was the first time she had done such a thing, so she didn't have enough confidence. I'm sorry. He was mocking me at that time, so I couldn't help but want to anger him. Her voice was very soft. I'm sorry, my foot isn't injured. I made you worry. Li Junqing was stunned for a moment. He looked at Secretary Qin in front of him and changed the address. After thinking for a moment, he pressed the glass in the middle of the car seat. Soon, the car was separated, leaving only her and Li Junqing behind. "Uncle Li, are you angry?" Yizhen pursed her lips, her eyes a little uneasy. "It's good that you're fine." Li Junqing pulled her hand and found that it was a little cold. He wrapped her hand in his palm. "You're not angry." "Why should I be angry?" Yizhen didn't know what to say. She just stared straight at Li Junqing's face. "I used you. Aren't you angry?" Li Junqing looked at her nervous expression and couldn't help but laugh. He leaned over and kissed her on the lips. "Yes. I know." "Then why wasn't she angry?" Curiosity won out. She didn't even care that he was taking advantage of her again. It's a good thing to be used by others. At least it means that you still have value in others' hearts. If a person lives in this world and no one wants to use him, that would be a tragedy. Moreover, the little girl knew how to use him to attack the people she hated. This meant that his position in her heart had begun to change. Of course, he wouldn't be angry because of this. Yizhen didn't say anything. These words completely subverted her understanding. She hadn't been educated like this since she was young. Her mother, grandfather, and uncle had never taught her these things. So, she could think like this. Li Junqing reached out and gently stroked her cheek. "Besides, I'm your boyfriend. I'm very happy that you're using me." "Boyfriend?" Yizhen bit her lip. "Uncle Li, you know it's fake. Regardless of whether it's real or fake, since we had an agreement, we have to treat it as real, right?" Li Junqing squeezed her hand. "Look, you've already promised to play the role of my girlfriend well, but you keep reminding yourself that it's fake. How can you really play it well like this?" Yizhen was stunned. She looked at Li Junqing. It seemed that it was really like that. "So, Junjun, what you have to do now is not to think about whether you're pretending or not. Instead, you really think of yourself as my girlfriend. Only when you believe that you're real can you convince others to believe you, right?" Yizhen was speechless. That seemed to be the case, but she felt that something was wrong. Li Junqing looked at her expression and pulled her into his arms again. He lowered his head and accurately blocked her lips. He stopped and pressed his forehead against hers. "Tell yourself that you're not pretending. You're real. You're my girlfriend. Only when you convince yourself can you convince others." The rest of her words were kissed away by him again. This time, it was much more intense than before. Yizhen's limbs went limp from his kiss. Her body was weak, and she leaned into his arms. Finally, he let go of her. She caught her breath and gasped for air. "Uncle Li, you're getting more and more used to my kiss. After a few more kisses, you'll believe more and more that you're my girlfriend." Did she still have to believe such a thing? She wasn't at all. It was just a fake. "All right, don't think about it anymore. I'll take you to dinner." "Uncle Li, since you want to pretend to be my girlfriend, then start by understanding my preferences and habits." Li Junqing looked at her with curved eyebrows. His hand tightly wrapped around hers. The warmth of the room made her unable to say anything else. She suddenly realized that there was no need to pretend, right? Even if she was his real girlfriend, there would be many women who would be willing, right? This was a private restaurant with good privacy. After Li Junqing ordered, he looked at Yizhen, who was sitting opposite him. "Since you're coming back to Rong City with me tomorrow, there's something I want to tell you first." "Go ahead." Yizhen hadn't recovered from the kiss just now. She sat very solemnly. "I'm 33 years old this year. Because I was busy with work before, I never thought about getting married. You're my first girlfriend. How was that possible? Yijin looked at him suspiciously. My family is in Rome City. Other than my parents, I have a younger sister. My father is now working in the province. My mother is the vice president of the Women's Chamber of Commerce. She's also the vice president of the Rome City Bank. Yijin blinked. She had long known that Li Junqing's family was extraordinary, but she didn't expect it. Your parents, don't worry, my parents are very open-minded people. Ever since I turned 30, they want me to get married immediately. They won't interfere with what kind of girlfriend I find. Was that so? Yijin was a little suspicious, but she quickly shook her head. It doesn't matter if they object. I'm fake anyway. Strangely, when she said this, she felt a little uncomfortable in her heart. Such an outstanding man must have a lot of women who liked him. It was probably just that he didn't want them usually. Even if you're fake. You have to have some professionalism, right? That was true. Yijin nodded and sat up straight. All right then. Go on. What do you like and what don't you like? She thought for a moment and suddenly raised her hand. Wait, I'll write down what you said. Seeing that she took out her phone to record, Li Junqing smiled. You don't have to be so dramatic. You just have to remember it. I don't have anything I particularly like, nor do I particularly hate. You don't have to be too nervous. Really, you don't have to remember a lot. Seriously, I'm allergic to mangoes. I can't eat mangoes. As a person who wanted to get back on track, he wouldn't let himself have too obvious a weakness for others to know. By the way, what about you? Do you have any special preferences? Me? That's right. Since you're my girlfriend, I have to know your preferences and taboos, right? Otherwise, if my mom asks, won't I be exposed? Oh. Yijin nodded. I'm about the same as you. In terms of food, I like vegetables more than meat. I like fish and don't really like red meat, except for beef. Also, I'm allergic to honey. As she spoke, she realized that two of the dishes that Li Junqing had ordered were her favorites. She reminded herself that this was impossible and unrealistic. But she couldn't help but think in that direction. Li Junqing didn't order dishes because he knew her preferences, did he? Hee. How was that possible? When Yijin returned home, Yi Nanshan, Chen Wan, Yi Ninggan, and her 10-year-old brother, Yi Jinhao, were all there. When she entered the door, the eyes of the family fell on her in unison. Yijin acted as if she didn't see them. After calling her dad, she planned to go upstairs to her room. Stop. Yi Nanshan looked at his daughter and was a little angry. You didn't even greet the elders when you came back. Where are your manners? I already called you just now. Yijin stood still with an indifferent expression. As for the other elders, I didn't see them. You. Yi Nanshan was so angry that he slammed the table. Chen Wan pulled his hand at the right time. All right, the child is tired from playing outside. Don't be so angry. She kept giving Yi Nanshan a look, and Yi Nanshan sat down. Who sent you back just now? Who sent me back? Don't you know? As she spoke, she glanced at Yi Ninggan. She didn't believe that Yi Ninggan wouldn't tell Chen Wan and the others. Yijin, what's with your attitude? Is this how you talk to your elders? I think my attitude is pretty good. You. Yi Nanshan was about to lose his temper again, but he still had some concerns. He sent you back, why didn't you bring him in? No matter what, you should let him have a cup of tea before leaving, right? No need. It's not good for your health to drink tea so late at night. Yi Nanshan was angry. Chen Wan stood up. Xinjin, look at you. Why are you so rash? Your father is just concerned about you. After all, you're still too young. You're always so inconsiderate when dealing with people. It's good for you to have an elder to consult with, so that your relationship can go further, don't you think so? What relationship? Yizhen blinked, looking like he didn't understand. Auntie, why don't I understand what you're saying? You. Chenwan couldn't hold it in anymore. Didn't you say that? You're going to be the mayor's wife. Ha! Yizhen was shocked. Did I say that? What are you thinking? Uncle Li is an elder. He just sent me back for my grandfather's sake. Yi Ningyan was furious. She stood up. Yizhen, why are you pretending? Didn't you say that? Today, Mayor Li went to pick you up, and he even carried you. So many people saw it. Do you want to deny it? What a joke. Yizhen laughed. I sprained my ankle. Uncle Li was kind enough to take me to the doctor. When did I say that I'm going to marry Uncle Li? As she spoke, she glanced at Yi Nanshan. Dad, Uncle Li and I are 1 generation apart. Aren't you afraid of being laughed at for saying that? Chapter 769. Yizhen smiled. It turned out that they were waiting for her here. If she had agreed just now, the mother and daughter would definitely have found other opportunities for her to bring Li Junqing home. She really didn't know where their righteous attitude came from. They occupied her home, took away her father, and wanted to take away the company left by her mother. Now they still wanted to take away her boyfriend. Although it was fake, their intentions were the same. They were really too shameless. But what a pity. Auntie, what are you talking about? Ning Han and I are sisters. Since Mayor Li and I are 1 generation apart, then Mayor Li and Ning Han are naturally 1 generation apart. Besides, even if there's no difference in seniority, Uncle Li's business is not something I can interfere with, don't you think? She suddenly seemed to have thought of something and looked at Yi Ning Han. Oh right, speaking of which, Ning Han seems to have a boyfriend. Last time, I saw a man eating with her. What nonsense are you talking about? Yi Ning Han suddenly became nervous. Her face turned pale and she looked flustered. Yizhen, don't talk nonsense. How can I have a boyfriend? Yi Ning Han was anxious and didn't even call her sister anymore. Ha! Did I see wrong? I clearly saw you and that man. Yizhen suddenly covered her mouth and looked as if she had said something wrong. Dad, Auntie, look at my mouth. I said too much again. Okay, I'm tired. I'll go upstairs and rest first. Good night. She quickly went upstairs. Just as she walked to the corner, she heard Chenwan's anxious voice. Ning Han, is what she said true? You have a boyfriend. Where did you get a boyfriend? Mom, I don't have one. Yi Ning Han's face was pale. It was all Chen Liang's fault. If he hadn't shamelessly pestered her, how could she have been seen by Yizhen when she was pulling him? Yizhen wasn't interested in how Yi Ning Han explained. With Chen Liang around, Yi Ning Han would have a headache for a while. After returning to her room, she calmed down and suddenly remembered that Li Junqing said he would pick her up to Rong City tomorrow. Although the identity of this girlfriend was fake, Yizhen found that she couldn't help but feel a little nervous. Would Li Junqing's parents and family like her? If they didn't like her, would she not have to pretend to be Li Junqing's girlfriend? Forget it, I'll deal with it when it comes. She would just pretend that she was going out to play. Rome City was a 2-hour drive from Qing City. Yizhen woke up a little early today. She stood in front of the dressing mirror and looked at herself. She turned around to make sure there were no problems before she picked up her bag and went downstairs. On Saturdays, Chen Wan and Yi Nanshan always woke up late. There was no one downstairs. Yesterday, she had specially told Li Junxing to pick her up earlier today. He walked out of the living room of the Yi family and walked through the garden. Li Junxing's car was already parked at the door. Her footsteps quickened subconsciously, but she seemed to have thought of something and slowed down again. Li Junxing opened the car door and saw the little girl walking in his direction. The bright yellow dress was well cut and accentuated her tall figure and fair complexion. Her shoulder-length black hair was tucked behind her ear. I could see the diamond studs in her ears. It could be seen that the little girl had put in a lot of effort to dress up today. Li Junxing's eyes carried a hint of a smile because of this discovery. Uncle Li, Yizhen walked to the front of the car and stopped. For a moment, she didn't know where to put her hands and feet. Get in the car. Without correcting her, Li Junxing gestured for her to get in the car. Yizhen got in the car and was about to fasten her seatbelt when Li Junxing hugged her waist and successfully pulled her into his arms. Yizhen was no longer as frightened by his actions as she was at the beginning, but she was still not used to it. Uncle Li, you're still calling me Uncle Li. Li Junxing raised the glass in the middle when he arrived today. He didn't mind being more intimate with her. He kissed her on the lips and held her slender waist, successfully making her body more compatible with him. What do you call me? Yizhen's face turned red from his kiss. Her body was pressed against her back, and her chin was pressed against her neck. What do you call me? Uncle Li, call me Junxing. It was too intimate. Yizhen couldn't say it out loud. She couldn't help but turn her head to look at him, but she happened to kiss his lips. Their lips met, and Li Junxing's eyes were full of smiles. So proactive. I like it. As he spoke, he held the back of her head and deepened the kiss. Yizhen couldn't escape. When she was about to suffocate, Li Junxing finally let go of her. Uncle Li, Yizhen's face was red. She was very dissatisfied with his behavior of always taking advantage of her. All right, it seems like you like this name. The smile in his eyes was very inexplicable. Yizhen didn't know what he was smiling about. It was just a name. You, take a break. After all, it'll take 2 hours to get there. Yizhen moved her body uncomfortably. Let go of me first. Li Junxing followed her advice and placed her beside him to let her sit down. As soon as Yizhen left his arms, she wanted to sit by the car door. Li Junxing wouldn't let her do as she wished. He pulled her body to his side. Sleep against me. Yizhen couldn't move. He turned his face and kissed her on the cheek. Let's rest like this. It was still daytime. How could Yizhen want to sleep? If you don't want to rest, we can do something else. Li Junxing whispered something into her ear. Yizhen was frightened. She didn't want to sleep, so she closed her eyes to rest. He said that he had only heard of car shocks and had never tried it. Perhaps she was interested in giving it a try. Li Junxing looked at the little girl's frightened expression and laughed out loud again. The little girl was really interesting. It could be imagined that with her by his side in the future, he would definitely have a lot of fun. Yizhen didn't want him to take advantage of her again, and she didn't want to listen to him and do any shocks. She closed her eyes and pretended to sleep. In a daze, she remembered something. She muttered something in Li Junxing's ear. After making sure that he had heard her, she carefully maintained a relatively safe distance from him and continued to rest. Li Junxing's home was in the same area as the Hua family. When the car stopped at the Li family's main residence, Yizhen was really asleep. Li Junxing didn't want to wake her up. Looking at the little girl's sleeping soundly and slightly pink face, he thought for a moment and carried her out of the car. The temperature in Rong City in October wasn't high. The breeze caressed her face, making her feel especially comfortable. Yizhen was so comfortable that she rubbed against Li Junxing's arms and found a comfortable position. Unexpectedly, she didn't wake up. That kitten-like behavior made Li Juanqing's expression soften. Just like that, he carried her into the house. The nanny of the Li family was cleaning up in the living room. The moment she turned around, she was so shocked that her eyeballs almost fell out. What did they see? The young master, who had never been close to women and had almost never been intimate with any woman, was carrying a woman into the house. More than a nanny. Mother Li had just gone downstairs and was about to go out. In the end, she saw her son, who she thought would be a bachelor until the end, carrying a woman into the house. Juanqing. Was there something wrong with her eyes, or did her son really bring a girl back? Li Juanqing was about to ask his mother to keep her voice down, but who knew that Yizhen, who was in his arms, woke up. Uncle Li. Yizhen didn't sleep well last night, so after the initial nervousness in the car, she really fell asleep. Now that she woke up, she didn't realize where she was. She only knew that she was being carried by Li Juanqing. She didn't think about what was wrong for a moment. After all, she had slept beside Li Juanqing in the car. Uncle Li. She yawned. Are we almost there? Li Juanqing wanted to laugh even more. We're already there. We're already there. Ha! Yizhen blinked and suddenly realized something. She didn't seem to be in the car right now. Juanqing, aren't you going to introduce me? Yizhen was startled by the voice behind her. She turned around and saw a young noblewoman standing on the stairs. She looked like she had taken care of herself very well. The meaning in her words made Yizhen's legs go soft. Mom. She was Li Juanqing's mother. She was anxious and hurriedly wanted to get out of Li Juanqing's arms. Li Juanqing smiled and put her down from his arms. Because she was too anxious and nervous, she almost lost her footing when her feet touched the ground. Li Juanqing reached out to help her, but she patted his hand without a trace. She glared at him with a hint of accusation in her eyes. Shenzhen. Li Juanqing acted as if he didn't see her gaze. He hugged her and took a step forward. This is my mother. Yizhen was very embarrassed, very embarrassed. She looked at Li Juanqing's mother, and her heart was filled with sorrow. Li Juanqing, he really had enough. He didn't even wake her up and let her lose so much face in front of his mother. Hello, Auntie. Yizhen called weakly. She really couldn't think of how she could change Li Juanqing's mother's impression of her under such circumstances. Mom. This is Yizhen. Li Juanqing saw the interest in his mother's eyes. You can call her Shenzhen. Mother Li looked at Yizhen, and the smile in her eyes was very obvious. She didn't miss the two addresses just now. Uncle Li. What kind of address was that? Shenzhen, right? What did you call Juanqing just now? Yizhen was embarrassed again. And it was the kind that was very embarrassed. Her face was so red that it was almost dripping blood. She was so angry that she couldn't help but pinch Li Juanqing's hand. Li Juanqing snorted slightly, and Mother Li happened to see her action. She burst out laughing. Yizhen was even more embarrassed. She had never lost her composure like this before. She felt that she couldn't stay here any longer. So cute. Mother Li couldn't help but step forward and pinch Yizhen's little face gently. She didn't use much strength, but she felt even happier when she felt the little girl's face burning. She glanced at Li Juanqing. How do you usually take care of him? You're so skinny. Since you're back, stay here for a few more days and take good care of yourself. All right. Mother Li saw that Yizhen's face was burning and patted her on the shoulder. It's like returning to your own home here. Juanqing doesn't know how to take care of people. If he does something wrong, tell me directly. I'll help you teach him a lesson. Yizhen was speechless. If there was a hole in the ground, she would have crawled into it. I have something to do and need to go out for a while. I won't be back for lunch. Your sister and your father won't be home at noon. You take Xinjin for a stroll. When we come back tonight, let's have dinner together. Li Du's mother thought about it and felt that it was not very grand. Why don't we eat outside? Go to the bright jade house and ask for a private room. I'll talk to your father. No need. Li Junxing was the one who spoke. Let's eat at home. Otherwise, Xinjin will feel uncomfortable. That's true. Mother Li smiled and looked at the embarrassment on Yijin's face. Don't worry, Mother Wang's cooking is very good. She knows how to cook both northern and southern dishes. If there's anything you like in particular, just let Mother Wang know. Yijin looked at Mother Li. Her eyes were very kind, not the kind that was faked. She really seemed to like her very much. The other party's attitude made her more relaxed and more comfortable than before. Auntie, it doesn't matter. I'm not picky about what I eat. So cute. Mother Li liked it even more. Alright, I have something to do and have to go out. I really can't reject this social event at noon. It's all Juanqing's fault. He didn't even tell me that he wanted to bring you back. Don't blame him. I won't. Auntie, you have something to do first. I'm fine. Junxing. Mother Li looked at her son. Take good care of Xinjin. I'll leave first. After giving a few more instructions to Li Junxing, Mother Li left. After she left, Yijin relaxed a lot. When she turned to face Li Junxing, her expression changed again. It's all your fault. Why didn't you wake me up? It was really too embarrassing. Also, she had clearly asked him to stop the car before coming to Rong City. She was going to buy a gift for his parents. He, on the other hand, went straight home. It was too rude to come empty-handed like this. Don't worry. My mom doesn't mind. Yi Zhen was angry. How was this a matter of whether she minded or not? It was that she felt embarrassed, very embarrassed. Li Junxing seemed to understand her thoughts. He leaned forward and his forehead was almost touching hers. You care so much about my mom's opinion of you. Are you planning to be my real girlfriend? Yijin even forgot to blush. She stared blankly at Li Junxing's enlarged face in front of her and finally spat out 2 words. Nonsense. Li Junxing smiled. Yijin had long discovered that Li Junxing seemed to like to smile. What she didn't know was that Li Junxing only liked to smile in front of her. Most of the time, his expression was very indifferent in front of outsiders. Because Li Junxing's parents weren't around, Li Junxing didn't let Yijin stay at the Li family's house for long. After taking Yijin around the Li family's house and familiarizing herself with the environment, he took her out the door. Rome City had an old city, a stone city, and some buildings left behind from the previous colonial period. Although Yizhen was also from Z province, she hadn't been to Rome City much. In the afternoon, Li Junxing took her around the ancient city. Although the ancient city here was small and couldn't compare to Lijiang and Wuzhen, it had its own flavor. After leaving the ancient city, Li Junxing took Yizhen home. When they returned to the Li family, other than Mother Li, Li Junxing's father, Li Qi, and his sister, Li Wanyu, were also back. Li Wanyu also brought her boyfriend back. Yizhen had already seen Mother Li before. When she saw Li Qi, she once again felt nervous. Li Qi looked somewhat similar to Li Jun, but the feeling he gave people was even more similar. Thinking about what Li Junxing had said about his position, Yizhen was so nervous that she didn't know where to put her hands and feet. Don't be nervous. Come here, just treat it as if you're back home. Don't be too nervous. Li Qi's words were exactly the same as what Mother Li had said before. He also looked very friendly. After the embarrassing moment in the morning, Yi Zhen was much calmer now. However, when Li Qi heard that she was Lu Manjiang's granddaughter, the way he looked at her changed again. "You're actually Brother Lu's granddaughter? I've heard him mention it a few times before. I didn't expect you to be so old." What made Yi Zhen relax was that Li Qi also had a look of admiration when he mentioned his grandfather. Brother Lu is a very impressive scholar. Many of the academic ideas he put forward on economics are very valuable. Previously, Mother Li had only heard that her son was bringing a girlfriend home. She really didn't expect such a relationship. Professor Lu's granddaughter? She suddenly smiled. No wonder. No wonder she called Li Junqing uncle. In terms of seniority, it was true. You still call him Brother Lu. I think you have to change the way you address him in the future. Since we're getting married, call him Uncle Lu. Yes, yes, yes. Li Qi also thought of it. Since my son is going to marry you, then I can't call your grandfather Brother Lu anymore. I have to call him Uncle Lu. Yi Zhen was actually very embarrassed. When she came in the morning, she called Li Junqing uncle, and now she called his father uncle. Seriously speaking, Li Qi was lowering his seniority. It really made her very embarrassed. However, the Li couple's attitude was very good, which made her nervousness dissipate a lot. After greeting the Li parents, she met Li Wanyu. Her boyfriend was called Zhou Sun, and he was from Hong Kong. Wearing a pair of glasses, he looked gentle and refined. She heard that his family was also well off. In the past 2 years, he had only started doing business in Rome City, and that was how he met Li Wanyu. The two of them standing together looked quite good. When Yi Zhen was in Qing City, she didn't think that her family was poor. However, after coming to Rome City and seeing the Li family, she secretly felt a little different. In terms of family background, the Yi family was indeed inferior to the Li family. The Li family was considered a large family. Other than Li Junqing's main family, there were also side branches. Basically, they all held important positions in the relevant departments. Although the Yi family, which she was interested in just now, was a little rich, it couldn't compare to the Li family. When Yi Zhen realized this, she couldn't help but have some very subtle thoughts. However, she was magnanimous, and such emotions only lasted for a moment. After all, she was only here to pretend to be Li Junqing's girlfriend. It didn't matter how good the other party's conditions and family background were. Chapter 770. After dinner, Mother Li chatted with Yi Zhen very warmly. As for Li Junqing, it was rare for him to come back. He was called into the study by his father, saying that he had something to say. Li Junqing wasn't around, so Yi Zhen had to spend time with his mother alone. She was actually very tormented. Her mother left early. After so many years, she rarely had the experience of getting along with female elders. As for Chen Wan, she didn't need to mention her. However, Mother Li's gentle attitude made her slowly relax. When she was asked some questions that she had already set up with Li Junqing before, she was able to quickly respond when she was asked the questions that she had already answered. For example, how did you meet Junqing? How long have you known Junqing? Has Junqing met your parents? Her tone was very friendly. Other than being a little nervous at first, Yi Zhen slowly relaxed. Moreover, she had already answered these questions with Li Junqing before. Her answers were surprisingly smooth and didn't stutter at all. Knowing that Li Junqing knew Yi Zhen because of Lu Manjiang, Mother Li wasn't surprised. With her son's personality, it would be too difficult for him to meet women outside. She could see that the smile on Mother Li's face was getting brighter and brighter. At first, she felt guilty for deceiving her elders. But the feeling of guilt soon dissipated. She wasn't the one who lied, and she wasn't the one who asked her to lie. If Mother Li really wanted to blame someone, blame Li Junxing. After answering Mother Li's questions, she sat with her for a while. Finally, she let her go and let her go back to her room to rest. Yizhen went upstairs to her room, and Li Junxing came out of the study. Where's Xinjun? She went upstairs. Mother Li pouted at her son and gestured for him to come and sit down. Then I'll go up too. Sit down. It won't take a few minutes. Unlike the gentleness Yizhen saw just now, Mother Li's expression was quite serious. I have something to say. She turned around and looked at Li Qi. Hubby, sit down too. Li Wanyu, who had just sent her boyfriend back, entered the door and saw her mother's serious face. She didn't know what had happened, so she came over and sat down. Junxing, is Xinjun really your girlfriend? Yes. Then why does she call you uncle? Although there was no difference in seniority, since they had already decided to date, why didn't she change it? This is a misunderstanding. She is Uncle Lu's granddaughter. According to seniority, shouldn't she call me uncle? It's just a title, it shouldn't be a big deal, right? Li Junxing didn't panic at all. He believed that Yizhen wouldn't tell the truth to his mother. However, what Mother Li said next surprised him. It's really not a big deal. Mother Li sneered. But your choice of words is too poor. Junxing, Yizhen has already admitted it. You admit it? Admit what? Admit she's not your girlfriend. Li's mother didn't believe that she couldn't trick him into telling the truth. It's just because Uncle Lu saved your father's life that you called her here to fool us. Li Junxing's expression didn't change. He was still calm. Mother Li looked at his reaction, and her expression became colder and colder. If you don't want to have a girlfriend, you can say it clearly. You lied to me like this and brought a fake back. Is this how you treat me and your father like this? Li Junxing frowned. He didn't react much to Mother Li's words. Mom, what are you talking about? What did I say? I said that you and Yizhen aren't real boyfriend and girlfriend. As she spoke, she slammed the table hard. You brought her back to put on an act to fool me, didn't you? Junxing. Li Qi looked at Li Junxing in disbelief. He was very grateful to Lu Manjiang for saving his life back then. If he could really marry the other party because of his son, it would be a good thing. Brother. Li Qi and Li Wanyu didn't believe it. Both of them looked at Li Junxing in shock. He was still as gentle as ever these few days. No matter how flustered and exasperated Mother Li was, she wouldn't make him waver in the slightest. Mom. Xinjun isn't here. Don't say that in front of her. Mom, I don't mind telling you that to Yizhen, she's my fake girlfriend. But to me, she's real. Mother Li was very smart. She almost immediately understood the key point. You did it on purpose. Yes. I did it on purpose. Li Junxing nodded and admitted it bluntly. If I didn't do this, she would have run away a long time ago. How could she have come back with me? Li Wanyu's eyes widened. She couldn't believe that her usually gentle brother would do such a thing. This was too disillusioning. Li Qi couldn't believe it. In the study just now, his son didn't mention anything. Junxing. This wasn't like his son's style of doing things. Don't worry, Mom, Dad. I know what I'm doing. Li Junxing's eyes flashed with determination. You don't have to be anxious. I'll let you drink this cup of wife tea sooner or later. As he spoke, he stood up and patted Mother Li's shoulder. Mom, next time, you don't have to trick me into telling the truth. As long as you ask, I'll tell the truth. You. Mother Li slapped his hand. Don't play tricks on us next time. Don't bully the little girl. Do what you should. Pursue her well. Don't scare her away. Don't worry. Li Junqing smiled. She won't be able to run away. Li Wanyu looked at Li Junqing's appearance and had goosebumps all over her body. TSK, her brother's appearance was beyond her imagination. She didn't know if Miss Yi knew about such a blackened brother. If she didn't, Li Wanyu mourned for Yijin for 3 minutes in her heart. As for running in front of Yijin to expose her brother's mask, that was absolutely impossible. Li Junqing didn't care what his family thought. He wouldn't care about other people's thoughts when he decided on something. He went upstairs and entered the room. This was his room. When he came before, he didn't tell Yijin clearly. When she wanted to rest, he just asked the servant to bring her into his room naturally. In the bathroom, the sound of water could be heard. Li Junqing narrowed his eyes and thought about the scene inside. His blood couldn't help but rush down. However, he held it in. After thinking for a while, he took his clothes from the closet and went to the bathroom next door to take a shower. Yijin came out of the shower and looked at the room in front of him. This Li family was really extravagant. Even a guest room was so exquisitely decorated. However, this style was a little similar to the style of Li Junqing's apartment in Qing City. It was simple, clean, and atmospheric. In the afternoon, she walked around for the whole afternoon and talked to Mother Li for a long time. Yizhen was also sleepy at this time. She lifted the blanket and lay down to sleep without thinking too much. The weather in Rome City in October was suitable. It was neither hot nor cold. The balcony was opened a little, and the wind outside blew in, giving people a very comfortable feeling. Yizhen closed her eyes and soon felt sleepy. When she was half asleep, she felt the bed move. At first, she didn't think much about it, but she was shocked by the sudden warmth in her arms. When she realized what it was, her entire body stiffened. She opened her mouth and was about to scream. Her scream was kissed away. Her voice was stuck in her throat. The words that she couldn't say in time made her face turn red. It was also at this time that, with the moonlight shining through the balcony, she saw that the person in front of her was Li Junqing. He was still in a state of shock, and his heart was much more at ease. However, as her body felt the warmth, it quickly rose again. Just when she was about to suffocate, Li Junqing finally let go of her. She wanted to speak, but her throat was a little choked. Why are you here? Li Junqing raised his eyebrows, and there was a smile in his eyes. This is my room. Is this a lie? Isn't this a guest room? Yizhen blinked, and she looked especially bright in the dark. Li Junqing's heart softened. You don't know. Yizhen shook her head quickly, and there was a hint of grievance on her face. I thought this was a guest room. As she spoke, she began to push Li Junqing's body. I'm sorry, I'll go out now. Li Junqing grabbed her waist and pulled her into his arms. He lowered his head and pecked her lips, a faint smile in his eyes. You're going out. Where are you going? Guest room. Yizhen looked embarrassed. Your house is so big. There should be a guest room, right? Shenzhen. Li Junqing lowered his voice and pressed it against her cheek. His sexy voice made her face heat up again. You're my girlfriend. Are you going to sleep in the guest room? Yizhen was slightly embarrassed. She pressed her hands against Li Junqing's chest. It's fake. It's fake. But if you go out, what will my parents think? Yizhen stammered for a long time, and suddenly had a flash of inspiration. I can sneak in tomorrow morning. As soon as she said this, she felt Li Junqing's chest tremble. Above her head was his low chuckle. She raised her head and looked at him in confusion. Shinjin. He couldn't help but kiss her on the cheek again. There are surveillance cameras in the corridor of our house. Was it a lie? Who would install surveillance cameras at home? Yijin blinked at her and realized that Li Junxing wasn't wearing any clothes. His warm chest was pressed against her palm. She retracted her hand as if she had been electrocuted. She tried her best to retreat a little and then suggested very seriously, why don't I sleep on the floor? You're here to help me. How can I let you sleep on the floor? It'll be uncomfortable to sleep on it. Then, I'll sleep on the sofa. She had seen it just now. The sofa in this room was so big that it could be used as a bed for her. She didn't mind. The sofa is too small. It's easy to fall to the ground. No, I sleep very well, Yijin said weakly. It was almost a deathbed struggle. That won't do. What if you fall? Yijin looked at him and couldn't say that she wanted him to sleep on the sofa and she to sleep on the bed. Then what should we do? Just sleep like this. Just sleep like this. Yijin swallowed her saliva. The dim room was not very bright. Li Junxing's face was not very clear. All of these added up to make the environment in front of them a bit more ambiguous. Isn't this sand too suitable, Uncle Li? Although it was only a short time, she had gotten used to calling him that. Why are you still calling me Uncle Li? What else could she call him if not Uncle Li? Just now, my mom asked me if I found you to put on an act to lie to her. As he spoke, he kissed her nose. This action was even more intimate than kissing her lips. Yijin's body instantly stiffened. What did you say? I said no. You're really my girlfriend. Then your mom, she didn't believe me and asked me why you called me uncle. Not counting in the morning, Yijin really couldn't call Ko Junxing's name when they were eating. She called him Uncle Li a few times, and even Li Qi looked at them. I could only tell my mom that this is a little romance between us. Romance my ass. So, congratulations. You can continue to call me Uncle Li. Was this the main point? Yijin's thoughts were once again led astray by Li Junxing. Alright, I've explained everything for you. Now that everything is fine, you can sleep. Yijin was speechless. She was very thin and slender. Her waist was tightly held in Li Junxing's arms. He held her waist with one hand and placed the other hand on her back, patting her gently. Be good and sleep. She closed her eyes and fell asleep. She seemed to have really fallen asleep. Yijin, I just called you Uncle Li to be polite. Do you really think of me as your niece? Slam. His chest was so hot that she couldn't sleep at all. She had never been so intimate with someone before. The previous night didn't count. She was unconscious. She had slept alone since she could remember. She had never been hugged so tightly by the opposite sex, not letting her escape the usual sleeping method. She couldn't help but move her body. She left his arms. There was no reaction. She tried to move again. She pressed her hands against his chest and lightly exerted force. Her body slid down. Ding, she touched something. However, when her hand was about to touch that thing, she suddenly reacted. What was that? She looked up at Li Junxing. She didn't know when he had opened his eyes. In the darkness, his eyes were a little too bright. Yijin suddenly became nervous. You're not asleep. Li Junxing's lips curled up. His big hand grabbed her small hand and moved it down. Do you want to touch it? No. Yijin was shocked and quickly retracted her hand. Then, do you want to do it? Li Junxing pressed her body into his arms. No. Yizhen couldn't even speak clearly. Li Junxing retracted his hand with a disappointed expression. So, you don't want to touch it, and you don't want to do it. No, I definitely don't want to. Then why aren't you sleeping? The hint in his words was too obvious, and his body's reaction at this moment, sleep, I'll sleep now. Yizhen closed her eyes as fast as she could and didn't move at all. She was too nervous. She was so nervous that even her breathing was slow, as if something would happen if she breathed even a little. Chapter 771. His little girl. How interesting. He was in a good mood and couldn't help but kiss the tip of her nose again. When he felt the body of the person in his arms tighten and her breathing become lighter, he smiled silently. Forget it. He would let her go today out of kindness. Although it was really hard to bear. Yizhen's body had been tense and she had been controlling her breathing. She was scared to death. More than anything, she regretted it. Why did you push him for no reason? Why did you twist it for no reason? Was it okay now? Did she provoke him? She didn't think about how she was the victim in this matter. She just felt that she shouldn't have done that just now. She endured, waited, and waited. She waited nervously for Li Junxing to really fall asleep. During this process, her body was tense and she didn't dare to move at all. In the end, she was really sleepy. Her eyes became heavier and her consciousness became blurry. Finally, her tense body slowly relaxed and she really fell asleep. After she fell asleep, Li Junxing opened his eyes and looked at the little girl holding her hand even when she fell asleep. He couldn't help but laugh. She held on for quite a long time. He had underestimated her. It had been hard on her. He picked up her hand and adjusted it to a relatively comfortable position for her to hug him more intimately. Only then did Li Junxing fall asleep with her in his arms. As for the view of her neckline that was accidentally revealed when she fell asleep, yes, that would be his benefit. He didn't want to adjust her clothes for her. When Yizhen woke up in the morning, Li Junxing was no longer in the room. She heaved a sigh of relief and couldn't help but look at her pajamas again. She couldn't remember when she fell asleep last night. However, what was certain was that Li Junxing was a gentleman yesterday and didn't take advantage of her. But she quickly thought of those 2 kisses. That was still considered taking advantage of her, right? She shook her head and decided to keep her distance from Li Junxing next time. Definitely, definitely. Looking at the time, Yizhen quickly went to the bathroom to wash up. When she returned to her room, she realized that Li Junxing had returned to his room. Morning. Li Junxing looked at her with a faint smile in his eyes. She realized that Li Junxing liked to smile at her. As the saying goes, one does not slap a smiling face. Every time Yizhen saw Li Junxing smiling at her so warmly, no matter how uncomfortable she was, she couldn't seem to express it. She wasn't the only one who couldn't vent her discomfort. She wanted to stay away from Li Junxing, but she was always defeated by his smiling face. It was already illegal for a man to be good-looking. If he was good-looking and smiled often, and his smile was very good-looking, that was even more against the rules. Here. Your clothes. Li Junxing carried 2 bags in his hands. My sister's clothes might be a size too big for you. I bought it according to your size. Li Wanyu wore size M, but Yizhen was too thin, so he could only wear size S. Yizhen looked at Li Junxing. He went out so early to buy clothes for him. She was just a fake girlfriend. Why did he treat her so well? Don't misunderstand, I bought it yesterday. I was talking about business with my dad in the study and forgot the time. I forgot to give it to you. Li Junxing smiled and stood in front of her. She had just washed her face, and there were a few strands of hair on her forehead that were wet. He raised his hand and tucked the wet hair behind her ear. Looking at the stiffness and alertness that flashed across her eyes, he felt a chill run down his spine. Change your clothes. Come down and eat after you're done. His eyes were too gentle, so gentle that Yijin completely forgot about the uneasiness from last night. There was also the matter of her deciding to keep a distance from him. Li Junqing smiled and reached out to rub her hair. Then quickly change your clothes. I'll wait for you. He smiled, straightened his body, took a step back, and left. However, after leaving the door, the smile on his face disappeared. The little girl wanted to keep a distance from him. TSK. What an unfriendly thought. But it didn't matter. He would make the little girl give up on this idea. The light in Li Junqing's eyes definitely couldn't be considered gentle. If Yijin saw his appearance at this moment, she would probably feel disillusioned. Unfortunately, Yijin couldn't see it. At breakfast, the Li family was all there. The breakfast was very rich, but it was still mainly Chinese. Li Qi looked at his son. They had talked last night, and there was nothing he didn't support his son's idea. The Li family's influence was immense, and there were also some complicated connections within it. It would be good if his son could find a wife who could help him, but it didn't matter if he didn't. Even if he and his wife were in a free relationship, they wouldn't interfere with their child's marriage. It was fine as long as they liked it. Especially since the girl was Professor Lu's granddaughter. Yes. Although she was still his girlfriend for the time being, so what? Sooner or later, it would become real. Knowing their son's plan, the Li couple was now fully cooperative. No matter what, they had to help their son take her down, right? After eating, Mother Li took Yijin's hand and brought her to the living room to sit down. Li Junqing, Li Wanyu, and the others followed. Li Junqing sat down next to Yijin as if he was declaring his sovereignty. Yijin felt the warmth coming from Li Junqing's body and approached Mother Li without a trace. Mother Li acted as if she didn't see her little movements and picked up a box from her coffee table. She opened it, and inside was a bracelet that was dark green and had a good head. I left in a hurry yesterday and didn't give you a gift. I made it up today. You can wear this and play with it. Yijin looked at the bracelet. She didn't come from a small family. She could guess how much it was worth just by looking at the color of the bracelet. Auntie, this is too expensive. I can't accept it. Why can't you? As Mother Li spoke, she put the bracelet on Yijin's hand. From now on, you're with Junqing, so you're a member of the Li family. It's just a bracelet. No. Auntie, this is really too expensive. Yijin didn't forget her identity. She was just a fake girlfriend. How could she accept such an expensive gift? I said, wear it and play with it. As she spoke, Mother Li ignored Yijin's retreating hand and put the bracelet on Yijin's hand. Mom, isn't this the bracelet I asked you to give me last time? You're biased. I asked you to give it to me, but you didn't give it to me, so you gave it to sister-in-law, right? The word sister-in-law made Yijin's face turn red. Mother Li glanced at Li Wanyu. You talk too much. Do you think I haven't given you many good things? Not a few, not a few. Li Wanyu smiled and turned to look at Li Qi. Dad, what are you giving her? You can't not have anything to say, right? Li Qi smiled. Your sister-in-law will come to Rome City often in the future. How about this, I'll give her a car. As he spoke, he looked at Li Junqing. I ordered a Maserati. It'll arrive in a few days. It'll be just right for Xinjin. Thank you, Dad. Li Junqing thanked him on behalf of Yijin. Yijin quickly waved her hand. Uncle, there's really no need. How can I accept such an expensive gift? It's just a car. You can drive it and play. Li Qi seemed to have thought of something. There's a house in the West District. I'll get them to renovate it. When you and Junxing get married, it'll be used as a wedding house. Yizhen didn't know what to say anymore. She turned around and glanced at Li Junxing, signaling him to reject it. Li Junxing held her hand and said with a faint smile on his face, "Dad, are you talking about the duplex in the West District?" "Yes. That one is large and has a good view. It's just right for the two of you to live in." As he spoke, he glanced at Yizhen again. "Of course, if Xinjin doesn't like it, I'll get Junxing to take you to pick one later. You can tell me which one you like. There's really no need." Yizhen was only here to pretend to be Li Junxing's girlfriend. How could she have known that their family would be so enthusiastic? She felt extremely guilty for a moment. When she met the sincere eyes and kind faces of the Li family's parents, she almost couldn't help but reveal everything. "Auntie, uncle, I really can't accept such an expensive gift." "I actually don't." Li Junxing pinched her hand at the right time, making her unable to say anything else. He smiled and looked at his parents. "Mom, Dad, look at you guys. You're so impatient that you scared Jinjin." "How can I not be impatient?" Mother Li looked at her son reproachfully. "Why don't you take a look? It's because you haven't gotten married that I can't have grandchildren until now. I look at the two of the Huo family every day and I can't help but envy them. I'm not greedy. I don't dare to think about having twins. As long as you give birth to one for me, I don't care if it's a boy or a girl." Li Qi nodded. He agreed with this point. Who in Rong City didn't envy the Huo family now? So what if they had money and power? They still had to have people. Why was Huo Jinyao's life so good? He got two at once, and it just so happened to be a boy and a girl. They had just gone to see Mrs. Huo on her birthday some time ago. The two little babies had been raised to be fair and tender. They were beautiful and lively. The old guys were very envious of them. "Jinjin, don't be too nervous. Actually, these worldly possessions are really nothing. Compared to your grandfather's kindness to me, they're really not worth mentioning." Li Qi was quite serious when he said this. "If it weren't for Uncle Lu back then, I don't know where I would be now. How could I be where I am now? Why did they suddenly talk about having children?" Not to mention Yizhen's face, even her neck was red. "Dad, Mom, don't worry." Li Junxing placed his hand on Yizhen's shoulder and hugged her. "When I get married to Jinjin, I'll definitely have children." To be honest, he quite liked the twins in Huo Jinyao's family. Moreover, he couldn't stand Huo Jinyao showing off in front of him. One had to know that among his childhood friends, he was actually the oldest. Then there was Huo Jinyao. Now that Huo Jinyao was a father, he still carried two at once. TSK, was he bullying him because he didn't have a girlfriend? It was fine. He would start looking for one now. That's what you said. When the time comes, you must have a few more. After Motherly finished speaking, she looked at Yizhen's uncomfortable face and quickly patted her hand. "Don't be scared. Actually, if you don't want to have children, you can have them later. However, you still have to have a child, right? Don't worry, there are many nannies at home. There are many people, so you don't have to worry about taking care of the children. You just have to worry about having children." "Yes, sister-in-law. If you give birth to a child now, my mother might raise you up." Li Wanyu teased. Mother Li glared at her. "You talk too much. If you have the ability, hurry up and get married. Hurry up and give birth to a grandson for me. I don't want to get married so early. I still need to inspect him." Li Wanyu stood up as she spoke. "That sounds good. As for me, I'm going to inspect the one in my family. Sister-in-law, you too. You can inspect my brother properly. If you don't pass the test, don't marry him. Don't worry, I trust my brother's character. As long as you marry him, you can wait to enjoy a good life. Yi Zhen was really embarrassed. Before she came, she had imagined that she would be put in a difficult position because of the wrong family. On the contrary, these two were either urging her to get married or urging her to get married. Their attitude was so anxious that she couldn't help but wondered if Li Junxing had some hidden illness. Could it be that he really had a hidden illness? The little girl's thoughts were too shallow. Li Junxing could guess what the little girl was thinking without opening his mouth. He couldn't help but pinch her palm hard. Yi Zhen misunderstood his meaning and suddenly realized that she was pretending to be Li Junxing's girlfriend. Since that was the case, of course, she had to act like it. She had to take on this responsibility and play the role of Li Junxing's girlfriend. Yes. Yi Zhen didn't refuse again. At most, she could return it later. It wasn't a big deal. Li Junxing knew that the little girl had misunderstood, but it didn't matter. The Li family would never take back the gifts they had given. After chatting with his parents for a while, Li Junxing took Yi Zhen out. He told his parents in advance that he wouldn't be coming back for lunch. He had an appointment with Hu Jinyao and the others at noon. Firstly, he hadn't gathered with that group of people for a long time. Secondly, he wanted to introduce Yi Zhen to them. There was a consensus in their circle that if they met a partner they had decided on, they would definitely bring her to their circle and let them know her. Therefore, after Hu Jinyao met Su Qingsang, he even specially called them to Lin City to get to know her. It was the same now. Since Li Junxing had decided on Yi Zhen, he had to let everyone in the circle know her. Yi Zhen didn't know the difference. Li Junxing said that a few friends had invited her to lunch at noon. At first, she didn't want to go. However, Li Junxing's next words made her change her mind. Don't you want me to help you take back the company? You know my identity. There are many things I can't do, but someone can. When Yi Zhen saw Hu Jinyao, her eyes almost popped out of their sockets. The president of Tianyu Group. He was good friends with Li Junxing. And that one Xianying, who even the Dong family of Qingqing had to respect as a distinguished guest. The Tang family's hotels had already opened all over the country. That Tang Mohan was actually Li Junxing's childhood friend. Even if she hadn't seen these people before, she had heard of their names. But unexpectedly, she suddenly understood what Li Junxing meant. She pretended to be his girlfriend, and he, in return, introduced his connections to her. Thinking of this, Yi Zhen suddenly felt a little guilty. Li Junxing's repayment was real. However, she wasn't very qualified to be his girlfriend. Although Li Junxing was chatting happily with Hu Jinyao and the others, he also paid attention to Yi Zhen from time to time. When he noticed the change in her eyes, he silently curled his lips. Hu Jinyao was a smart person. He pouted at Su Qingsang and gestured for her to greet Yi Zhen. Su Qingsang readily followed his advice and sat next to Yi Zhen. The little girl is very innocent. Hu Jinyao looked at Li Junxing and said in a low voice, "Where did you seduce her? Speak properly. What do you mean by seducing her?" Li Junxing smiled and picked up the wine in front of him. "I'm charming. TSK. When you have the ability to make the little girl fall in love with you, you can talk about your lack of charm. It's only a matter of time." Li Junxing clinked his wine glass with Hu Jinyao's. TSK. Hu Jinyao narrowed his eyes and suddenly smiled. "I bet 100 yuan that she won't know your true face. Even if you bet 10 billion, you'll still lose." Li Junxing chuckled. "It doesn't matter if she doesn't know. If she knows, she won't be able to run away. His gentle side could be seen by the whole world. However, his scheming side could only be seen by those close to him. I'll mourn for her for a few minutes. Hua Jinyao clinked his glass with him. They all had a good relationship, but in terms of closeness, he was indeed closer to Li Junxing. Li Junxing looked at Yi Jin, who was slowly letting go of him because Su Qingsang went to talk to him. Morning. Ha. It wasn't easy to run away after getting on his boat. Thinking about it this way, it seemed that he really needed to mourn for Yi Jin. After coming out of the hotel, Yi Jin still felt a little unreal. These real big shots in the business world were actually having dinner with her. This was really too magical. She had added a few WeChat accounts on her phone. Yi Jin wanted to scream for a moment. Tianyu Group. What was the Ning family? What was the Dong family? That was the Tianyu Group. Are you guys very close? Yi Jin didn't recover from the shock even when she sat in the car. She looked at Li Junxing and really couldn't figure it out. Yes, we grew up together. Li Junxing nodded. Yi Jin sucked in a breath of cold air. She realized something that couldn't be said. With Li Junxing's status, how could there be a lack of people to pretend to be his girlfriend? With his status, in his circle, there would probably be many women who would want to get close to him with a casual wave of his hand. But he actually chose her to pretend to be his girlfriend. She had been worried that he had some ulterior motives. However, from the looks of it now, it was clear that the other party treated her differently because of her grandfather. Thinking about Li Qi's attitude towards his grandfather, Li Junxing could only be purely repaying his kindness. What's wrong? Secretary Chen was still the driver today. Li Junxing looked at Yi Jin's drooping face, as if she wasn't happy. He held her hand again and wrapped it in his palm. Nothing. How could Yi Jin say that she was feeling guilty? She pulled her hand out without a trace. I just feel that your friends are all very powerful. Li Junxing narrowed his eyes, and there was a clear flash of danger in the depths of his dark eyes. You mean, I'm not powerful? Not really. Yi Jin felt that she had said something wrong. You're also very powerful. After all, there weren't many such young mayors. Chapter 772. Yi Jin looked up at him. She was just saying it casually. Did he really want her to continue praising him? Yi Jin, who really couldn't figure it out, could only change the topic. Uncle Li, are we going back to your house or Qing City now? They had already eaten. At this time, they should be back in Qing City, right? Yes. Let's go back to my house first. Li Junxing pinched her palm. Yi Jin had long discovered that he especially liked to pinch her hand. My parents prepared some gifts for your grandfather and uncle. So they were going back to get the gifts now. There's no need to be so polite, right? Yi Jin was still wearing the bracelet on her hand. She couldn't help but want to leave. Uncle Li, tell Auntie later that I can't accept this, and then you can return this to your mother, okay? No. Li Junxing refused. If you want to return it, you can return it yourself. My mother won't take back what she gave away. Yi Jin started to feel a headache. Uncle Li, alright, it's just a bracelet. It's not a big deal. Don't be nervous. I'm not nervous. Yi Jin glanced at him. She was different from him. I just feel very uneasy. After all, Auntie treats me so well and really believes that I'm your girlfriend. But I lied to her. She could retaliate against those who were unfriendly to her, or she could retaliate without any hesitation. But for those who were very good to her, Yi Jin's heart was extremely soft-hearted. Ever since her mother passed away, there were too few people who were good to her. She really didn't want to lie to someone like Motherly, who didn't pretend to care and was kind. If you really don't want to lie to her, you don't have to. Li Junxing held her hand and kissed it. If you turn the fake into the real, you won't be lying to her. What did he mean? Before Yijin could react, the Li family had already arrived. She couldn't ask the rest of the question. Li Junxing's father said that he had prepared some gifts, but Yijin looked at the pile of special items and couldn't think that they were just casually prepared. Jinjin, come and play when you're free. Even if Junxing isn't free, you can come often. When you're coming, give me a call and I'll get someone to pick you up. Auntie, there's more. Junxing works all day and all night. If he neglects you, just call me and I'll teach him a lesson for you. No, Auntie, actually, if Junxing bullies you, tell me too. Motherly smiled and patted Yijin's hand. Don't worry, I promise to stand on your side. Yijin never had the chance to finish his sentence. Even when she got into the car, she couldn't say that she wasn't Li Junxing's girlfriend at all. After the car drove away from the Li family's gate, she glared at Li Junxing with dissatisfaction. After hearing what Li Junxing's mother said, she felt even more guilty. What should she do? Li Junxing didn't know what Yijin was thinking. It was a 2-hour drive, so he asked her to rest for a while. I don't want to sleep now. Uncle Li, I think it's better for you to make it clear to your parents. If your mother finds out, she'll be angry. As for his suggestion earlier, Yijin did not even dare to think about turning a fake into a real one. Don't worry. Li Junxing looked at the nervousness on her face with amusement. My mom won't blame you. How could she not? When she thought of Mother Li's disappointed expression when she found out that she wasn't Li Junxing's girlfriend and that it was just a fake, she couldn't bear it. All right. Don't think so much. I'm going to be busy. I'm taking you home because I don't want my mom to talk about me. If you really don't want to help me, I'll clarify it with my mom after I'm done with my work. How about that? Okay. Yijin nodded. Then you must make it clear to Auntie. After all, it's not good to lie to an elder. Especially to such a kind elder. Yijin really felt too guilty. Li Junxing looked at the seriousness in the little girl's eyes and laughed in his heart. His mother already knew that this little girl was silly. However, it was because of this that she appeared even more adorable. He couldn't help but lean over and kiss her on the lips. Yijin stared at him with wide eyes. There was obvious accusation and confusion in her eyes. He already said it was fake, so why did he still kiss her? Let's rest for a while. I'll call you when we arrive. Yijin saw that he didn't seem to take the kiss to heart at all and was a little annoyed. After thinking about it, she couldn't help but speak. Uncle Li, I think it's better if you don't casually kiss relatives next time. She suggested very seriously, that's not good. People will think that you're very casual. He was very casual. Li Junxing frowned and didn't admit to this accusation. Instead, he looked at Yijin's serious face and found it very funny. You mean, if I don't casually but get someone else's consent, it's fine, right? Yijin nodded very seriously. Yes. Of course, you have to get someone else's consent. I see. Li Junxing held her shoulder and looked at her seriously. Then, I want to kiss you now. Can I? Yijin looked at the enlarged face in front of her and subconsciously shook her head. Li Junxing didn't give her a chance. He leaned over and the unfinished words disappeared from his lips. If you don't object, it means you agree. Yijin opened her mouth to speak. How could she agree? She was against it at all, okay? But she didn't have time to say the rest of the words. She heard his muffled words clearly. Jinjin, your mouth is so sweet. When Yijin woke up, she found that the car was parked outside the Liu family's house. It was getting late, and Li Junxing was sitting beside her reading a document. The setting sun shone in from the window where he was sitting. She saw the layer of light on her body. It made his facial features look somewhat unreal and illusory. Her fingertips moved slightly, wanting to catch the layer of light. However, she found that her hand was held by Li Junxing. He was holding her hand with one hand and reading a document with the other. When she woke up, he happened to feel it too. "You're awake." Li Junxing put the document aside and looked at her watery eyes, which had just woken up and were still a little confused. "I was still thinking that if you didn't wake up, I might have kissed you to wake up." He pinched her palm and kissed her lips. After all, sleeping beauties are always kissed to wake up. Yijin's face was a little red. Because of Li Junxing's analogy, she pulled her hand out of his palm and looked around. "This is my grandfather's house." "Yes." "Let's go." "Get out of the car." If she wasn't awake, he wouldn't wake her up. Yijin looked at his side profile, and a strange feeling surged in her heart again. He was really a gentleman who took special care of women. She was asleep, and he would rather wait than wake her up. Usually, he was considerate and gentle to her. His smile was especially gentle. As the mayor of a city, he didn't put on any airs. However, such a gentleman didn't have a girlfriend. Seriously, Lu Manjiang was especially happy to see Yijin and Li Junxing. Yijin's uncle, Lu Zhixuan, was also present today. Lu Zhixuan was about the same age as Li Junxing. He was also young and promising, and had an outstanding appearance. The two of them had interacted a few times before, so they had a common language. Yijin sat at the side and didn't say anything. However, she kept her ears open and listened carefully to their conversation. She wasn't an idiot, except that she was a little slower than ordinary people when it came to emotions and reactions. She was quite sharp in other aspects. Li Junxing's position determined that his way of looking at problems was different from theirs. When they were chatting, he would get to the point in a few words. Every suggestion was pertinent and feasible, and his analysis was in place. Lu Zhixuan was chatting happily with him. When he spoke, his expression was excited and his eyes were clear. On the other hand, Li Junxing was on the opposite side. No matter what topic it was, when he spoke, he would never be too emotional, nor would he be too emotional. Yijin retracted her gaze and occasionally said a few words to Lu Manjiang. However, her gaze would fall on Li Junxing from time to time. He was really a very gentle person. She didn't know who would be so lucky to get such a person in the future. Li Junxing was chatting with Lu Zhixuan, but he didn't miss Yijin. Feeling her gaze on him, he smiled without leaving a trace. The results were not bad. When Yijin entered the company, she realized that the way those people looked at her was different again. She ignored those people as if nothing had happened and went straight in the direction of the elevator. After entering the elevator, there were many people inside. She also smelled the smell of breakfast, which made her frown a little uncomfortably. A colleague squeezed over. It was Xiao Su from the same department. The way she looked at him was filled with a strong sense of gossip. Yijin glanced at her and didn't intend to speak to her. Previously, she only wanted to teach Yi Ningyan a lesson. She didn't expect Li Junxing to really enter the company and carry her away. She reckoned that she had already left the company. Sure enough, as soon as she arrived at the department, Xiao Su couldn't help but come over. "Yijin, who was that man that day? Was he your boyfriend?" "No." "Who are you lying to? If it wasn't your boyfriend, he would have carried you in a princess hug." "It was a princess hug. Let's not talk about that man's appearance. Just this princess hug alone made him a lot of fans, okay?" Many celebrities carried a woman on TV and walked as if they were flying, but only after watching the interview did they know that not many people really had such strength. He really isn't. Yijin didn't intend to say more. To her, the most important thing right now was to find out the mole in the company. Everything else had to be put aside. He just didn't know if the mole would be anxious to make a move when he found out that he and Ning Hai were going to reconfirm the new plan. Yizhen, that person really isn't your boyfriend. Xiao Su's gossipy heart didn't give up. I think he looks so familiar. I seem to have seen him somewhere. Really? Maybe it's because he has an average-looking face. F***ck Yizhen, do you have a guilty conscience? With that kind of appearance and an average-looking face. How do you want us to live? Yizhen was stunned for a moment. As if she had thought of something, she suddenly smiled. That's right, with Li Juanqing's appearance, he really couldn't be considered an average-looking face. Thinking of his curved eyebrows and the smile on the corner of his mouth, Yizhen felt her heart palpitate slightly. Yizhen didn't wait too long. On the third day, she had previously released the news that her plan with Ning Hai had been finalized and was about to be put on the agenda. She really found the mole. A member of the planning department had been in the company for more than 2 years. Recently, he had just started to come into contact with the core business. He didn't expect him to do such a thing. Yizhen didn't think that she was kind enough to laugh it off when others schemed against her. She was about to call the police and arrest the small employee for stealing company secrets. Her methods were fierce and her speed was so fast that the entire planning team saw her sharp side. As soon as she sent the person to prison, Yi Nanshan came looking for her. Why did you make such a big fuss? Yi Nanshan was angry when he saw his daughter. Why didn't you think about the company? Yizhen felt that this statement was very novel. She raised her eyebrows. Why didn't I think about the company? Find the moles so that they wouldn't dare to betray the company again. Why was it that when it came to Yi Nanshan, she was the one who didn't think about the company? Is it honorable for the company to have such a thing happen? Why don't you think about it? Is this something that can be publicized? Yi Nanshan slammed the table as he spoke. He made a mistake. Just let him get lost. Why did you hire the police? Do you want people to laugh at our company for having such a person and thing? Dad, I think your idea is problematic. Yizhen didn't give in. There's such a person in the company. Isn't it a warning to the public if I make this matter public? It's also to let those people know what happens if they betray the company. This is one of the reasons. Secondly, it's precisely because it's handled in time that not only can the company's problems be minimized, but it can also let people in the industry know our company's attitude. The attitude of being responsible for every original plan and every cooperative customer. How come when it comes to you, it becomes that we let others laugh at us? Yi Nanshan was annoyed by her attitude, but Yizhen suddenly smiled. Dad, you can even say such an obvious fallacy. It seems that you're really old. She leaned forward and put her hands on the edge of Yi Nanshan's desk. Dad, if you can't support this company, it's better to give up. You rebellious daughter. Yi Nanshan stood up and pointed at Yizhen's face. What do you mean? Nothing. Yizhen gently waved his hand away. I want to tell people that I have 20% of the company's shares. Dad, if you can't bear the responsibility of the company, I don't mind sitting in the position of the chairman and taking the responsibility of the company. Good. You're really my good daughter. Yi Nanshan pointed at Yizhen and nodded fiercely. Let me tell you. I'm still very young. If you want to sit in this position now, don't even think about it. The company was founded by him and Yizhen's mother. However, he didn't want to give the company to Yizhen. His company was to be left to Yi Jinhao. That was his son. He was the heir who could bear the heavy responsibility of the family. Yijin smiled faintly. Really? That's a pity. But we can try. How long can you sit in this position? Rebellious daughter, rebellious daughter. Yi Nanshan cursed as he watched Yijin leave. When he sat down again, the expression on his face was a bit ferocious. Damn Lu Hui. She was still guarding against her even after death. If she hadn't given the company's shares to Yijin, how could Yijin have the courage to yell at him like this? No, he had to think of a way to take back the company's shares from that girl. He also had to change the company's name to Yi. Everything could only be left to his son. Yijin didn't know what Yi Nanshan was thinking. After dealing with the mole and making Yi Nanshan almost vomit blood, she was in an extremely good mood. So when the phone rang, her voice carried a hint of joy. Hello, this is Yijin. Li Junxing, who was on the other end of the phone, was stunned for a moment. Because of the girl's joy on the other end of the phone, the corners of his lips curled up a little. Are you in a good mood today? Uncle Li. Yijin took her phone and quickly walked back to her office. She closed the door and didn't know why she did this. Why is it you? What's the matter? Yes. I have a small matter to trouble you with. Li Junxing used the word trouble. Yijin suddenly felt a little upset when she heard his overly polite attitude. Tell me, what's the matter? There's an opera at Qingqing Grand Theater tonight. One of my subordinates happens to be in charge of the theater, so he sent me 2 tickets. I wanted to ask you if you have time tonight to watch it with me. Watch an opera. Yijin's first reaction was that Li Junxing actually liked to watch operas. She thought that someone like him wouldn't have any entertainment in his spare time. It's La Traviata performed at the Royal Theatre of Pali in England. This opera is very famous. And the Royal Theatre of Pali's choreography is also very good. Okay, I'll go. Yijin actually hadn't gone to an opera or concert for a long time. She could take this opportunity to relax. Then I'll pick you up after work. We can go over after dinner. Okay. After Yijin hung up the phone, she actually looked forward to watching an opera with Li Junxing. Was this a date? Feeling that her face was a little hot, she patted her flushed cheeks. Calm down, calm down. This is fake. It's fake. You're not Li Junxing's real girlfriend. When Li Junxing got off work, he really came to pick up Yijin. This time, Yi Jinghan walked behind Yijin. So, she happened to see Yijin get into Li Junxing's car. Even if Li Junxing's face only flashed past in the car, it was enough for her to see clearly who that face belonged to. Yi Jinghan gritted her teeth and felt that her gums were about to bleed. Why? All her good luck seemed to have died to that woman, Yijin. Her grandfather, who was a professor, and her uncle, who doted on her. And the shares that her short-lived mother had left her even before she died. Now, there was another Li Junxing. Thinking of Li Junxing's conditions, Yi Jinghan hated him even more. Yijin had seduced Li Junxing, but what about her? When she thought of Chen Liang's pestering her, she was so sick of it that she wished she could kill that man. She took a deep breath, calmed down, and calmed down again. A little impatience would spoil great plans. She couldn't be anxious, and she couldn't panic. Now that she had just arrived, it was still unknown who would win. Chapter 773. Sitting in the car, Yijin felt inexplicably uncomfortable. Actually, you didn't have to come to pick me up. Tell me a place to meet, and I'll come over myself. Li Junxing had a habit of not driving the unit's car after work. Therefore, the car that Li Junxing drove to pick her up was a very low-key Audi. There didn't seem to be any problems. However, Li Juanqing's face was very problematic. This morning, Xiao Su had said that he looked familiar. If he came to pick up you a few more times, it was hard to guarantee that he wouldn't be recognized. Li Juanqing squeezed her palm and held it in his palm. It's okay. I like coming to pick you up. This way, we can spend more time together. Yizhen blushed at his words. She looked at his gentle eyes and kept denying it in her heart. Li Juanqing definitely didn't mean what she thought. He said that even if it was a fake girlfriend, they had to get to know each other better, so he must have meant that. Yes, that was it. Yizhen convinced himself in his heart. When he met Li Juanqing's gaze, he could clearly feel his heart beating faster than usual. What do you want to eat tonight? Up to, Yizhen wanted to say anything, but he changed the topic. What time does the performance start? We have to enter at 8. Yizhen looked left and right, then gave an address. Go to Immortal Source Residence. Immortal Origin Residence. Li Juanqing had been in Qing City for some time, but there were some places he had never been to. Yes. Immortal Origin Residence. Yizhen nodded. Because Li Juanqing didn't know, he introduced it with great interest. It's the immortal source. That spring is full of peach blossoms. I don't know where to find the immortal source. The boss was a clever man. He had a small courtyard with only 4 private rooms. Only 4 tables a day. Li Juanqing continued as if he knew what he was going to say next. Is it also up to the boss to decide what dishes are on the table? Yes. Yizhen smiled. This kind of thing wasn't difficult to guess, but Li Juanqing's cleverness still made her feel a trace of faint admiration. That boss will pick the freshest ingredients every day, no matter what it is, depending on his mood. Whatever ingredients you have, whatever he cooks, the customers can only eat. That's a good business strategy. Li Juanqing praised him. Yizhen smiled. But his culinary skills are really good. Whether it was Australian lobster, Japanese caviar, or ordinary home-cooked dishes. So, you can try it. Li Juanqing watched her introduce the restaurant and squeezed her hand again. Yizhen suddenly paused. She had long realized that Li Juanqing liked to pinch her hand. She subconsciously wanted to pull her hand back, but Li Juanqing gripped it even tighter. You seemed very happy when I called you today. What's wrong? Did something good happen? Yes. Yizhen nodded. Although Li Juanqing didn't understand much about their company, he could give a rough idea. Yizhen briefly recounted what had happened. Yizhen's eyes were now completely different from when he had been kissed senseless. There was a faint smile in Li Juanqing's eyes. Not bad, Jinjin is really amazing. This sudden compliment made Yizhen's face turn red. His gaze was very sincere. He really felt that she was very powerful and was praising her. She thought of Yi Nanshan's previous accusations against her. Compared to Li Juanqing, Yi Nanshan was clearly her family, but he only knew how to blame her. As for Li Juanqing, the two of them had only interacted a few times, but he trusted her unconditionally and stood on her side. Yizhen couldn't tell what she felt in her heart. She always felt that there was an emotion similar to being touched surging in her chest and couldn't get rid of it. Yi Ningen gulped down one glass after another. Her eyes were about to turn red. Her gloomy gaze coldly looked at the scarlet wine in front of her. She only felt the strong wine enter her throat, causing the hatred in her heart to roll even more. Yizhen, Yizhen, Yizhen. These 2 words were like a thorn in her heart, making her feel uncomfortable. Suddenly, a hand appeared on her shoulder. Chen Liang had come out of nowhere and sat down beside her. Yo, good sister, why are you drinking here alone? If you want to drink, call me brother. I'll drink with you. Actually, Chen Liang wasn't too bad looking. He was tall and thin, and his face was pale. His facial features were decent. It was just that he had been in the streets for many years, so he had a bit of a bad temper. He didn't look proper, and people would feel a little uncomfortable when they saw him. At this moment, Yi Ningin had goosebumps all over her body and was trembling all over the ground. "Don't bother me. Go away. Yo. Good sister, what's wrong with you? Tell me, your big brother. Your brother doesn't have much ability, but he can still help you come up with ideas. What good ideas?" Yi Ningin was about to say a few sarcastic words to him, but when she met his shrewd and somewhat fawning face, she suddenly stopped talking. She put down the glass in her hand. At this moment, Yi Ninggen's eyes suddenly changed from anger and hatred to grievance. "Pitiful. Brother All Yang. You're really the person who treats me the best in this world. Of course, you're my sworn sister. If I don't treat you well, who should I treat well?" All Yang patted her shoulder, looking like he had a deep relationship with Yi Ninggen. Yi Ninggen resisted the urge to vomit and wanted to wave his hand away. She blinked her eyes, and a drop of tears seemed to fall from her eyes. "Brother All Yang, you're just my sworn brother, but you can treat me so well. But some people, including my biological sister, can't tolerate me at all." "Biological sister? Isn't your mother? My mother only gave birth to me and my brother, but my father has a sister." Yi Ninggen saw the curiosity in All Yang's eyes, as if he had finally found a vent. "Brother All Yang, you don't know why I entered the Yi family. Back then, my father and my mother were a couple. What was hateful was that my father's ex-wife used her family background to bully people because she liked my father. She insisted that my father marry her. My father didn't want to, so she used despicable means to trick my father into being with her. Her family background was good, and her family was powerful. My father didn't want her to hurt my mother, so he had to agree to be with her. But I didn't expect that not long after my father married his ex-wife, my mother got pregnant. In order not to destroy my father's family, my mother took me, who was in her belly, and left my father far away. Later, my father's ex-wife died of an accident because of illness. And the heavens took pity on her. My mother and my father's fate was not broken, and they met again. Not only did they meet, but they also let my father know that my mother gave birth to me. Just like that, I followed my mother and married my father." When Yi Ninggen said this, the tears in her eyes had already fallen. "In fact, my father and my mother were the ones who loved each other. But his ex-wife interfered and forcibly separated my parents." All Yang looked at Yi Ninggen as if he was listening to a story. He didn't expect that there was such a process in the middle. "I was wondering why your mother took you to live alone outside and didn't see your father before." "Yes. So, when I could be with my father again, I felt that this must be the compensation from the heavens for seeing that I had lived too hard in the past 10 years. Of course." All Yang echoed, "Isn't this the sweetness after the bitterness?" Yi Ninggen smiled bitterly. "I thought so too before. But later I realized that I was too naive." "What's wrong? Does your father not treat you well?" Yi Ninggen shook her head with a bitter expression. "No, not my father. My father finally recognized me after so many years and brought me home. He treated me very well. But my father and his ex-wife still have a daughter." "And then? Did his daughter make things difficult for you?" "Don't ask. Brother All Yang. In any case, it's my bad luck." As Yi Ninggen spoke, she lay on All Yang's shoulder and sobbed softly. Chen Liang looked at her delicate and timid appearance, and the sense of justice in his heart suddenly rose to the extreme. "Good sister, if you have something to say, just say it. If someone really bullies you, I will definitely stand up for you. Brother All Yang, you're so nice." That's natural. Now tell me, is it your father and his ex-wife's daughter who bullied you? Yi Ningyan looked at him, wanting to say something but hesitating. Under Chen Liang's repeated questioning, she hesitantly told the truth. She didn't bully me, but she kept saying that I was the daughter of a mistress. She also said that as long as she was in the family, I would never be able to become the real Miss Yi of the Yi family. Usually in the company, she often throws things she doesn't want to do to me. You're always bossing me around. Yi Ningyan's eyes were red, and she looked at Chen Liang with heartache. Without waiting for him to comfort her, she strongly shook her head. Actually, I can bear all of this. After all, I've been scolded like this since I was a child. What kind of ugly words haven't I heard? But recently, she's getting more and more excessive. She even said that she wanted to drive me and my mother out of the Yi family. She grabbed Chen Liang's arm and looked at him with a painful expression. Brother All Liang. I actually don't care, really. I don't care whether I can stay in the Yi family or not, whether I can be the Miss Yi of the Yi family. Really, no matter how hard the days are, I can bear it. But my mother has been looking forward to reuniting with my father for so long and then being together. If my mother is really driven out, I'm afraid she will die of sadness. It's really outrageous. Chen Liang was so angry that he slammed the table fiercely. She's going too far. He held Yi Ningyan's shoulders with both hands and said indignantly, what right does she have to drive you out? Not to mention that you're your father's daughter, just because your mother and your father are married, she doesn't have the right. Yes. I think so too. Yi Ningyan looked helpless. But, she's too powerful. I can't beat her. Is there a need to fight? But it's the truth. Chen Liang suddenly looked at her. What about your father? Doesn't your father care about you? He used to care, but recently, he can't. Yi Ningyan shook her head with a bitter smile. You don't know how powerful my sister is. She hooked up with a big shot. Even my father doesn't dare to offend that person. Tell me, if she really gets together with that big shot, then there really won't be a place for me and my mother in the Yi family. What big shot? I'm not someone who hasn't seen the world. Tell me about it. That's right, it's the new mayor of Qing City, Li Junxing. When Yi Ningyan said this, she even shrank her body, as if she was really afraid. What? This time, it was Chen Liang's turn to be stunned. People like them would rather offend the hooligans outside or the small bosses with a little money, but they would politely decline the officials. Yi Ningyan naturally didn't miss Chen Liang's change in expression. She cursed him in her heart, but the expression on her face became more and more painful and conflicted. Ever since she hooked up with Mayor Li, I have even less status in the family. I admit defeat. I admit that I can't compare to her methods. Chen Liang's heart ached when he saw her like this. Forget it, Brother Liang. These are actually my business. It's my own family business. How can I let you worry about it? Just pretend that nothing happened today. You're just listening to me complain. Since I already know, how can I pretend that I don't know? Don't worry. I will definitely avenge you. Brother Liang, don't. Mayor Li is really not someone we can afford to offend. Chen Liang was silent. What Yi Ningyan said was the truth. If he really went against those officials, it wouldn't be good for him. However, if he really let it go just like that, then he would be too useless. He couldn't accept it no matter how he thought about it. Yi Ningyan retreated from his arms, and the entangled expression on her face became more and more bitter. Finally, she picked up the wine in front of her and drank it in one gulp. When she put down the cup, she seemed to be talking to Chen Liang, but also seemed to be talking to herself. Actually, my sister's backer is nothing more than Mayor Lee. I hate that I don't have the ability. If I can make Mayor Lee abandon my sister, let him see my sister's true colors and stop being bewitched by my sister. That way, Mayor Lee probably won't help her anymore. She smiled bitterly and shook her head. That's really a fantasy. I'm really drunk. I can't even get in touch with someone like Mayor Lee. How can I let him have a chance to see my sister's true colors? Chen Liang had no clue at first. Just as Yi Ningyan said this, an idea suddenly came to his mind. Let Mayor Lee see your sister's true colors. Not be bewitched by her. Chen Liang seemed to have thought of something and slapped his thigh hard. Why didn't I think of that? He looked at the pain on Yi Ningyan's face and said with loyalty, Good sister, don't worry. Your business is my business. Since your bitch sister dared to treat you like this, then don't blame me for being rude. Brother Liang. Yi Ningyan looked at him, and the pain on her face turned into worry. I don't need you to do anything for me. Listen to me, I really can do it. I'm used to it anyway. But I don't want anything to happen to you. Don't worry. Who is Brother Liang? I'll be fine. Chen Liang stood up as he spoke. Okay, don't worry about this. Leave it to me. I have a way. Brother Liang. You really don't have to. Yi Ningyan was still trying her best to persuade Chen Liang. She had a considerate expression on her face, as if she didn't want him to take risks and make mistakes for her. Chen Liang increasingly felt that the girl in front of him wasn't easy. No, he must teach that rich young lady who only knew how to bully Yi Ningyan a lesson. I'm leaving. Chen Liang wanted to investigate and make some arrangements. Don't worry, wait for my good news. Brother Liang. No matter how Yi Ningyan called, Chen Liang left just like that. After the door of the private room opened and closed again, a very strange smile appeared at the corner of her mouth. Idiot. He believed whatever she said. What an idiot. Yi Ningyan seemed to have thought of something and suddenly smiled. Yi Zhen, you definitely didn't expect it, did you? You racked your brains to think of bringing Zai Chenliang to me to make things difficult for me. But you didn't expect that one day, I would use Chen Liang to make things difficult for you, right? Thinking of Chen Liang's means, she was really looking forward to it. Chen Liang, don't let me down again. Yi Zhen felt a little uncomfortable. She subconsciously reached out to cover the position of her heart. Li Junxing sensed her cowering state. He turned to look at her and whispered into her ear, I'm sorry, but I'm sorry. What's wrong? Are you feeling uncomfortable? Yi Zhen shook her head. I'm fine. Maybe the temperature of the air conditioner is a little low. Hearing this, Li Junxing took off his suit jacket and put it on Yi Zhen. Wear my clothes. Yi Zhen and Li Junxing had gone to the Immortal Source House for dinner and came all the way here. Because she had to work during the day, she was wearing a white shirt and a black A-line skirt. Looking at Li Junxing's clothes, Yi Zhen was about to say that there was no need, but the background on the stage had already begun to change. The passionate background music made her voice unclear for a moment. Yi Zhen couldn't refuse his kindness. She could only look at him gratefully and continue to look at the stage seriously. Li Junxing's hand held her hand at the right time. She tried to pull her hand back, but she couldn't pull it back after using a few gentle efforts. She simply gave up. She focused on the stage and watched the performance seriously. The opera was well arranged, and the actors sang well. The stage and the background were all very beautiful. She should have been admiring it seriously, but she couldn't ignore the clothes covering her body. It was filled with Li Junxing's aura. She tried her best to control it, and even made her breathing very light. However, the other party's aura was too strong, and she couldn't let him throw the clothes on his face. Yizhen was still enduring, but a hand held her hand at this moment. The other party didn't use much strength, but she couldn't break free at all. Unlike her hand, which would become slightly cold after being blown by the air conditioner, his hand was always warm. It was just like the feeling he gave people. Yizhen couldn't help but turn her head to look at him. His side profile was handsome. From this angle, his eyes were clear and his expression was calm. Most importantly, such a person also knew how to respect and take care of women. It was really too rare. Li Junqing felt Yizhen's gaze on him. He smiled and held her hand harder. Chapter 774. When the opera ended, it was almost 11 o'clock. 3 hours of opera would not make people feel tired. Not only did Yizhen not feel tired, but he was also full of energy. Coming out of the theater, the night wind blew, and her expression relaxed a lot. She looked at Li Junqing, who was only wearing a shirt, and wanted to return his clothes to him, but he pressed her shoulder and didn't let her take them off. Just put it on. But, don't catch a cold. Yizhen didn't refuse again. She wore Li Junqing's clothes and felt surrounded by his aura, as if she was being hugged by him. That feeling was surprisingly not bad. Because of the performance, there were many cars in the theater parking lot today. Li Junqing asked the driver to drive the car to the other side. They still had to walk there. The night breeze was gentle, and the two of them walked side by side on the road. Their outstanding appearances attracted many people's attention even in the dark of the night. Yizhen was a little embarrassed. She leaned towards Li Junqing. Thank you for today. I haven't seen an opera in a long time. You're welcome. The tickets were given by my subordinates anyway. If there's another chance like this, I'll invite you again. Li Junqing said it casually. He didn't mention that he had specially found someone to buy 2 tickets at a high price because he wanted to ask her out. Sure. Yizhen nodded. Tonight's performance was really good. The lead actor's voice was nice, and his performance was also good. Yes. Not bad indeed. As the two of them chatted about the opera, Yizhen suddenly thought of something else. By the way, Uncle Li, since you like watching operas, do you like watching movies? I do. Li Junqing nodded. However, I'm usually too busy with work, so I don't have much time. Then, if there's a good movie next time, I'll ask you out. Yizhen didn't even think about it before she realized that she was taking the initiative to ask him out on a date, right? All right. Li Junqing answered so quickly that Yizhen blushed. Just then, the chauffeur drove the car over. She quickly got in the car and took this opportunity to escape from the question she had just asked. She did not take the initiative to ask him out, absolutely not. Sitting in the car and looking at the dark night outside, Yizhen felt a little conflicted. Li Junqing wouldn't misunderstand, right? It was a long distance from the theater to the Yi family. Yizhen actually had a house in the city, but she didn't want to live there. She would rather spend more time on the road every day. She would rather live in the villa every day and be in the way of Qin Wan and Yi Ningyan's eyes than take the initiative to move away and let the mother and daughter be proud. Sensing that the person beside him seemed to be distracted again, Li Junqing pinched her palm. Yizhen tried to pull her hand back. Her hand was not a toy. Why did he always like to pinch her hand? Her hands were not good-looking. Compared to her appearance, her hands were meaty. Although her fingers were slender, they were fatter than the average girl's. It felt meaty when pinched. Li Junqing stopped her. He pinched her palm and opened it to look at the lines on her palm. Don't move. I'll read your palm. Pooh. Yizhen almost choked on his own saliva. Li Junqing, help her read her palm. Uncle Lee, aren't you all atheists? You know how to read palms. Yes. Li Junxing nodded with a serious expression. Yizhen didn't believe him. His fingers brushed across her palm. She felt itchy. Other than the itch, there was an electric current flowing from her palm to her heart. She swallowed her saliva and suddenly felt a little difficult to breathe. Li Junxing didn't seem to notice her abnormality. His fingertips brushed across her lifeline. Your lifeline is very long. Although there are some small forks in the front, I can see that you will have a very rich and long life. Yizhen saw that he was serious and didn't believe him. Instead, it felt like he was a scammer. Your career line is also not bad. You will have great achievements in the future. Hee. Bullsh *T, right? Your love line. Li Junxing paused and looked up at Yizhen. Yizhen was a little nervous under his gaze. Your love line has always been to the end without any forks. This means that you will only fall in love once in your life, and then you can grow old together. Is this for real? Yizhen pulled her hand back and looked at it for a long time, but she couldn't see anything. Uncle Lee, you're lying to me, right? No. I'm serious. Ha. Yizhen didn't believe him. You don't believe me. Li Junxing's body leaned in her direction. His breath brushed against her face. Yizhen was inexplicably nervous and swallowed her saliva. Hee. Uncle Lee. I don't think feudal superstition is advocated nowadays, right? So. Li Junxing stared at the red lips that were inches away from him. His gaze deepened. So I really don't believe what you said. The atmosphere in front of her was a little strange. Yizhen pulled her hand back and smiled a little awkwardly. Since you don't believe me, then I naturally have to let you believe me. Li Junxing's voice disappeared into her lips. She widened her eyes as she stared at the enlarged face in front of her. For a moment, she felt something flash through her mind, but it was quickly messed up by his kiss. His hand covered her eyes. She had no choice but to close her eyes, but her senses were even sharper. His breath, his lips, his temperature, and his kiss. The moment she felt weak and could only lean into his arms, he released his hand from her eyes and looked down at her blushing face. His voice was a little hoarse. Now, do you believe me? Yizhen blinked. He didn't quite understand what her believing him had to do with him kissing her. You still don't believe me? He looked at her misty eyes, which were filled with mist. He could feel the blood in his body rushing to a certain part of his body. His throat tightened. He lowered his head and kissed her again. Then I'll have to let you believe me a little more. Yizhen entered the door almost at the same time. Yi Nanshan, Yi Ningen, and the others were sitting in the living room. She acted as if she didn't see them. She walked past them and went upstairs. Her footsteps were a little fast. After entering the door, she quickly threw her body onto the bed. She slowly let her body recover. Li Junxing's breath seemed to still be lingering on the tip of her nose, and his kiss was on her lips. Her hand touched it, but she retracted it as if she had been electrocuted. Uncle Lee, what did he mean? Why did he kiss her? Her face was a little hot. She turned around and buried her face in the pillow. Her phone rang at this moment. It was Ling Xian. Hello. Ah Xian. TSK. What's wrong with your voice? Ling Xian could tell that something was wrong just by listening to her voice. Are you in the bed of some handsome guy? What nonsense are you talking about? Yizhen sat up, but her voice was still a little hoarse. If Ling Xian was in front of her, she would definitely notice that something was wrong with her. Is it nonsense? Ling Xian snorted. All right. I don't care which handsome guy you're in the bed of. I want to tell you that there was a problem with the hotel's surveillance last time. Can't you get it out? I used the excuse that I lost something and insisted on checking it. The other party had no choice but to give me the original information, but they said that the data had been erased. Whether it could be recovered or not was none of their business. Yijin restrained her expression and suddenly became serious. Do you mean that the surveillance footage can still be recovered? Of course, who do you think I am? Ling Xian's voice was a little smug, and she changed the topic. All right, I won't tease you anymore. I found a computer expert. The other party can recover the destroyed information, but it will take some time. I'm calling you to tell you about this just to let you know. This is also a progress. Wait a few days. When the data is recovered, you will know who was that night. Okay. Thank you. You're welcome. Ling Xian snorted, and then seemed to think of something. By the way, what are you going to do after you catch that person? I'll see. In short, Yi Jinghan definitely set her up, but there was a problem in the middle. She didn't succeed with the prostitute, but she didn't know where the wild man came from. Yijin couldn't rest assured if she didn't find this man. She didn't want to see photos or videos that she didn't want to see on the internet one day when she was unaware. Okay, I will try my best to help you find this guy. After Ling Xian finished speaking, she was about to hang up. Yijin suddenly called out to her. What's wrong? Is there anything else? Ah Xian, if a man asks you to pretend to be his girlfriend but gets close to you from time to time, is this man serious, or is he just acting? Someone wants you to pretend to be his girlfriend. It's not me, Yijin answered quickly. A colleague in my company encountered such a problem. She asked me for help. Is this woman stupid? That man is obviously trying to get close to her on purpose. He's afraid that the woman won't agree, so he asked her to pretend to be his girlfriend. In fact, he has ulterior motives. Is that so? Yijin had a hunch in her heart. You don't know, but their family backgrounds are very different. I, the female colleague, think that with the other party's qualifications, he can have any woman he wants. There's no need. Is that so? Then it's possible that he's just playing. Just playing. Yes, you see, he said that he wants you to pretend to be his girlfriend, but get close to him from time to time. That must be taking advantage of him, right? Taking advantage of him. Yes, he did. Yijin felt a little guilty. Let me tell you, for a man with such a good background, if he is serious about a woman who is not as good as him, there is no need to pretend to be his girlfriend. Since it's a disguise, it can only be for fun. He's just playing. If your colleague takes it seriously, he will say, "Look, I told you long ago that I'm just playing. Only you take it seriously." But she thought of Li Juanqing's gentle and handsome face. She couldn't associate him with someone who played with a woman's feelings. Your colleague must have never been in love. She's too naive. Was that so? Yijin's previous shyness and embarrassment completely disappeared. Oh. Okay, I'll tell her. After hanging up the phone, Yijin sat on the bed in a daze for a long time. Suddenly, she smiled. Forget it, why think so much? Li Juanqing and she were not the same kind of people. Since he said it was a disguise, then it was a disguise. As for him taking advantage of her, he is so handsome, and he is so skillful. She would just take it that she took advantage of him. Yijin comforted herself like this, but that night, she still couldn't sleep. When Yijin received Li Juanqing's call again, her voice was no longer as enthusiastic as before. Uncle Li, what's the matter? Li Juanqing could hear it through the phone. He pretended to speak carelessly. Didn't you say you were going to treat me to a movie? There's a movie with a good reputation tonight. You, Uncle Lee, I have an appointment with my friend tonight. I'm afraid I won't be free. Is that so? Li Junxing wasn't annoyed. The fish had already entered the net. He would always make the other party willing. Since you have an appointment with a friend, then let's make an appointment tomorrow. Zhen, you don't have an appointment with a friend tomorrow, right? Tomorrow. I have an appointment with President Ning tomorrow. You know, my plan has been approved. I'll confirm it with President Ning tomorrow. Really? Congratulations in advance. Thank you, Uncle Lee. Yizhen cleared her throat. Uncle Lee, if there's nothing else, I'll hang up. After saying this, Yizhen quickly hung up the phone. Li Junxing held his phone and narrowed his eyes when he felt the speed at which the little girl on the other end of the phone hung up the phone. What's wrong with the little girl? When Yizhen hung up the phone, she felt a slight stuffiness in her heart. She couldn't say why she felt uncomfortable. She shook her head. She thought, it's all fake anyway. It doesn't seem to be a problem to reject Li Junxing. Anyway, this girlfriend of hers is fake. Since it's fake, could it be that she really dated him and had other thoughts? Shaking her head, Yizhen told herself not to think about it. Next, she would try her best to make Ninghai's plan perfect. The next day, Yizhen made an appointment with President Ning. Last time at President Ning's family banquet, she left early. Tonight, she specially offered to be the host and treat President Ning to dinner. The place for dinner was booked at a private restaurant. Apart from her, she called Xiao Su. President Ning had a secretary surnamed Xiao. Not long after Yizhen arrived, President Ning and Secretary Zhao arrived. After exchanging a few pleasantries, Yizhen took out the newly revised plan for President Ning to see. Originally, she should have asked President Ning to go to Jiang Hui's company. However, President Ning and Jiang Hui's cooperation was because of Yizhen's uncle, Lu Zhishuan. President Ning himself didn't like Yi Nanshan, so he didn't like to go to Jiang Hui to talk about business. After Yizhen showed the plan to the other party, there was a hint of admiration in President Ning's eyes. Not bad. I didn't expect that the original plan can't be used anymore. You can still come up with a better plan. This is better than the original one. Thank you for your praise, President Ning. Yizhen had a faint smile on her face. She was still very confident in her own plan. Okay, let's do it this way. President Ning made the decision. Yizhen smiled. President Ning, I'll ask them to serve the dishes. Okay. President Ning didn't object. He admired Yizhen very much. Yizhen glanced at Xiao Su. Xiao Su stood up and went to find the waiter to serve the dishes. President Ning's secretary, Xiao Zhao, went out to make a call. Not long after, he came in and looked at President Ning, then at Yizhen. He went forward and said a few words to President Ning. President Ning's face was a little surprised, then he glanced at Xiao Zhao. Are you sure? No. President Ning stood up and glanced at Yizhen. Xiao Yi, I have a friend outside. I'll go say hello. Okay. Do as you wish. Yizhen stood up. She didn't know who President Ning's friend was. Xiao Su came back at this time and said that President Ning was outside chatting with someone. The door of the private room was opened again. President Ning came back. Before Yizhen stood up to greet him, she saw the person behind President Ning. Li Junxing. Xiao Yi, let me introduce you. This is Mayor Li, this is Yizhen, the leader of the planning team of our partner company. She's very capable. President Ning, you don't need to introduce me. I know Zhenjin. Li Junxing's voice brought Yizhen back to her senses. She looked at him, and when she met President Ning's puzzled gaze, she called out embarrassedly, "Uncle Li, you know each other?" President Ning didn't expect this turn of events. And this title? Qinjin. Why didn't he know that Mayor Li and Yizhen had such a good relationship? He wasn't the only one who was surprised. Xiao Xiao and Xiao Su were also stunned. Wow, Mayor Li knew Yizhen. No way. Yes. Professor Liu is someone my father and I admire very much. Qinjin is Professor Liu's granddaughter. Naturally, we know each other. As Li Junqing spoke, he walked straight to Yizhen's side, pulled out the chair next to her, and sat down. That's good. President Ning was satisfied and asked them to sit down. Coincidentally, the waiter had started to serve the dishes. He asked the waiter to bring the wine. It's really a rare fate. Since Mayor Li and Xiao Yi know each other, let's celebrate and have a drink together. President Ning. Yizhen wanted to say that there was no need, but the waiter had already gone to bring the wine. Yizhen couldn't refuse. She subconsciously looked in Li Junqing's direction. Li Junqing looked at Yizhen, his eyes filled with an unclear meaning. President Ning, I'm afraid it's inconvenient, right? I realize that Qinjin doesn't seem to drink. How can you not drink? I've seen your alcohol tolerance last time. You can still drink. President Ning undermined Yizhen. Yizhen wanted to say that she only drank 2 small glasses of red wine last time. How could she drink? But how could President Ning give her a chance? The wine was soon served. It wasn't red wine, but white wine. Yizhen felt that something was wrong. Xiao Zhao was a perceptive person. Without waiting for President Ning's instructions, she opened the wine bottle and poured a glass for Li Junqing. Mayor Li, your treat. You're welcome. Xiao Zhao poured the wine for him and filled President Ning and Yizhen's glasses. Yizhen looked at the transparent wine. She really didn't drink white wine. In the past, she drank red wine or beer more. President Ning, why don't I drink beer? Look at you, why are you drinking beer? Don't you see that Mayor Li is here? You even called Mayor Li uncle. Isn't it just right for you, as a niece, to drink a few glasses with your uncle? President Ning was being kind. Yizhen's ability in the company was obvious to all, and she also had shares in the company. Although she was suppressed by Yi Nanshan because of her filial piety, as long as Yizhen could get to know Mayor Li and build a relationship with him, it would definitely be good for her in the future. Chapter 775. Not to mention that there was no need to claim this relationship. Mayor Li had already said that he knew her. Why didn't this silly girl know how to respond? President Ning began to feel anxious for Yizhen. She didn't know how to seize such a good opportunity. Come. Xiao Yi, a toast to your Uncle Li, President Ning winked at Yizhen. Yizhen really felt a headache coming on. She held the glass of wine, looked at President Ning, and then at Li Junqing. In the end, she had no choice but to raise her glass. Uncle Li, let me toast you. Li Junqing raised his glass as well. He didn't say anything and just looked at Yizhen. Yizhen felt inexplicably guilty under his gaze. She didn't even know what she was feeling guilty about. I can't hold my liquor well. You can do whatever you want. Yizhen said this because she wanted to drink less, so she raised her glass and was about to express it casually. Wait a minute. Li Junqing took the bowl in front of Yizhen, scooped a bowl of soup for her, and placed it in front of her. It's not good to drink on an empty stomach. Drink some soup first. The concern in his words was very sincere. Everyone present looked at Yizhen. President Ning patted his head. Look at me. I'm too careless. Come, Xiao Yi, drink some soup first and then eat something to fill your stomach. Yijin looked at the bowl of soup in front of her and suddenly thought of when she went to Rong City with Li Junxing a few days ago and ate at the Li family's house. Li Junxing had also done the same and scooped a bowl of soup for her. She couldn't help but glance at Li Junxing. Wasn't he angry that she rejected him today? If you want to drink, drink soup first. He reached out and took the wine glass away from her hand. The two of them didn't say much, but the atmosphere inexplicably made others feel that there was something wrong between them. Li Junxing had never been a person who showed his emotions. To be able to make people feel this way, he must have deliberately shown it. President Ning realized this and thought to himself that he would probably have to get closer to Yijin in the future. Yijin drank the soup tastelessly. Everything that happened today had exceeded her expectations. She didn't understand why Li Junxing would appear out of nowhere and act like he was very close to her. Be careful, it's hot, Li Junxing reminded her softly when he saw her drinking a little faster. At the same time, Yijin felt a hand on her leg. Her body suddenly stiffened. She stopped drinking the soup. The corners of her mouth were glossier than usual because she had drunk the soup. Li Junxing looked at her lips, took out a tissue from the side, and gently wiped the corners of her mouth. This action of acting as if there was no one else around was extremely intimate. The group didn't know how to react. Yijin took a step back, not because of the tissue he handed her, but because of his other hand that was messing around with her leg. She looked at Li Junxing and thought about what Ling Xian had said yesterday, about his intentions. There was no reason for a man to help a woman. Either he was sincere, or he wanted to take advantage of her. She really couldn't tell what Li Junxing's true feelings were. She took a deep breath. Feeling that she was overreacting, she stood up and picked up the wine glass in front of her. Uncle Li. Thank you. I propose a toast to you. I'll drink first to show my respect. She finished her drink in one gulp. The spicy wine almost made her choke. She had almost forgotten when was the last time she drank white wine. She only remembered that it seemed to be because it was too spicy, so she only tasted it and asked someone to change it to red wine. Li Junxing didn't drink. His eyes were fixed on Yijin's face. Then, just when Yijin thought he would be angry, he picked up the glass of wine and drank it in one gulp. I have to drink Yijin's toast no matter what, don't you think? These words were too misleading. Coupled with his actions just now, how could others not understand? Xiao Su's jaw was about to drop. Why didn't she know that her team leader had such a relationship with Mayor Li? Everyone in the private room looked at Yijin, especially President Ning. Uncle Li, you're too polite. Yijin poured herself another glass of wine and gritted her teeth. I'll remember the care you've given to me and the Liu family. I propose a toast to you. Yijin drank the glass of wine again. It was so spicy, really spicy. So this was the taste of white wine. She should have asked someone to change it to red wine or stop drinking it. But when she looked at Li Junxing's face, she couldn't help but think of Ling Xian's words. The word play made her very uncomfortable. She didn't even know where this discomfort came from. Shaking her head, she ignored the gazes of others as she was about to cry from the spiciness of the wine. She poured another glass of wine. It's not proper without 3. Uncle Li. You're my elder. I will always remember this. After 3 glasses of wine, Yijin's face turned red. She finished the toast and sat down again. Li Junxing was still holding the empty wine glass from before. He looked at Yijin and thought about what she had said before. Elder. Ha. The little girl was young, but she had a lot of thoughts. He didn't say anything and just sat there with a faint smile on his face. President Ning inexplicably felt a chill run down his back. He remembered some things they had heard when Li Junxing had first come to Qing City. Li Junxing had served in several places in the south and had done very well. Especially the last place, Lin City. He had only been there for 2 years, but his achievements in all aspects were obvious to everyone. For such a man to come to a place like Qing City, who knew how many people were asking about him. There were also many people who wanted to give him gifts. However, those people all returned empty-handed. Soon, everyone knew that Li Junxing didn't like money or women. He didn't even have any weaknesses. When he dealt with people, he always had a smile on his face. With a faint smile, he looked like he was easy to talk to and get close to. Today, President Ning saw it with his own eyes and realized that the rumors were wrong. With Li Junxing's smiling face in front of him, he definitely wouldn't feel that the other party was friendly. The atmosphere was a little subtle. Xiao Zhao and Xiao Su didn't understand what was going on. In the end, President Ning stood up. Mayor Li, today is a rare opportunity. Let me toast you too. He poured wine for Li Junxing, then raised his glass and drank it. Li Junxing only gently touched his lips to express his agreement. It was completely different from drinking a glass of wine just now. President Ning seemed to have understood something. He turned around and glanced at Yi Zhen. Come, Xiao Yi. Another toast to your Uncle Li, President Ning, I've already toasted you. And it was 3 glasses. Yi Zhen drank 3 glasses of white wine in one go and drank it in a hurry. She was already feeling uncomfortable, so she naturally didn't want to drink anymore. Yes. Xinjin has already toasted you. Li Junxing smiled and smiled at Yi Zhen. Now, it's my turn to toast Xinjin. Xinjin, let me toast you. Yi Zhen's wine glass was empty. She looked at Li Junxing and for a moment, she suspected that he was doing it on purpose to get her to drink. I've already drunk. I know. So I'll toast you now. Li Junxing's smile was faint, but his eyes gave people the feeling that he had a strong attitude that couldn't be refused. Yi Zhen sat still. She didn't pour herself any wine, nor did she speak. Xiao Yi. When President Ning saw this, he quickly stood up and poured a glass of wine for Yi Zhen. Your Uncle Li is toasting you. Drink a glass. I drank just now. The alcohol in Yi Zhen's body was starting to get to her head. She felt a little dizzy. Xiao Yi. Why was this person so insensible at this time? You were the one who toasted me just now. Now, Mayor Li is toasting you. You have to drink too. Li Junxing kept holding his wine glass and looking at Yi Zhen. The little girl's face was already red. The way she looked at him was filled with dissatisfaction and resistance. She had been fine before, but it suddenly became like this. Li Junxing narrowed his eyes and suddenly twitched the corner of his mouth in disappointment. It seems that my reputation is too small. Mayor Li, President Ning was embarrassed. He raised his wine glass and wanted to say that he was toasting Li Junxing, but looking at Li Junxing's expression, he didn't want him to drink. Xiao Yi, just drink 1 glass. 1 glass is enough. As he spoke, he glanced at Li Junxing. Mayor Li, look, Xiao Yi is also drunk. Let her drink another glass. Okay. I just want to express my respect for Professor Liu. Xinjin, just drink 1 glass. She would drink. Yi Zhen stood up, picked up the glass of wine, and drank it again. After drinking, she put down the glass and looked at Li Junxing. Uncle Li, I've finished drinking. Is that okay? Yes. Yi Zhen wanted to sit down, but her vision blurred and her body swayed. Li Junxing supported her at this moment. His aura instantly surrounded her. Yi Zhen didn't like this feeling. She wanted to leave his arms. However, Li Junxing held her in his arms and looked at President Ning. Xinjin is drunk. I'll send her home first. I'm not drunk. Yijin placed her hands on his shoulders and whispered, I don't want you to send me home. Li Junxing didn't look at her at all. He hugged her body tightly and looked at President Ning. President Ning, I'm sorry. I should have drunk with you. But Jinjin is drunk. After all, she is Professor Lu's granddaughter. I'll send her home now. Okay. What else could President Ning say? I didn't think it through. Next time, if there's a chance, I'll drink with Mayor Li again. Xiao Su's lips moved. She wanted to say something, but Xiao Zhao pressed down on her arm at the right time. She didn't say that she could send Yijin home. Li Junxing left with Yijin just like that. Yijin wasn't obedient. After leaving the private room, she began to struggle. Don't touch me. Let go of me. She panted heavily. Her breath reeked of alcohol. It was her first time drinking several glasses of white wine in one go. She was very dizzy, but she still remembered to keep a distance from Li Junxing. I can go home myself. Shaking her body, she pointed behind her. Xiao Su, send me home. I'll send you back. Li Junxing held her hand in his and told her not to move. However, Yijin struggled even harder. I don't want you to send me home. Let go of me. You. She said the last few words very softly. However, Li Junxing was very close to her, so he still heard clearly. She said, You're not a good person. He's not a good person. Li Junxing narrowed his eyes. His eyes were blurry and his cheeks were red. She was already drunk, but she didn't forget to resist him. If he wasn't a good person, who was? Also, how was he not a good person? While he was distracted, Yijin had already pushed him away. However, she couldn't stand steadily. Her body swayed and she was about to fall. Li Junxing quickly grabbed her body. Seeing that she was still struggling like this, he saw that she was still struggling. He simply carried her in his arms. Yijin still tried to get out of his arms, but Li Junxing hugged her even tighter. He leaned down and whispered into her ear, If you move again, I'll kiss you here. Yijin didn't move. She blinked as if she was thinking about Li Junxing's words. Then, she suddenly acted up. She straightened her upper body, tilted her head, and was about to bite Li Junxing's neck. Li Junxing wasn't prepared for this and was bitten by her. It was very painful. He took a deep breath. Without waiting for him to move, Yijin had already let go and then turned to bite his ear. You bullied me. She pulled Li Junxing's ear. Li Junxing was in pain, but he didn't let go. She didn't get a response from him, so she used even more force. You bullied me. You bullied me. She repeated this sentence over and over again. Li Junxing frowned. Bullied? How did I bully you? The deep male voice was very magnetic. Yijin frowned. How did he bully her? She seemed to be thinking and stopped her attack. Li Junxing took the opportunity to carry her outside. The driver had already driven the car and was waiting. When he saw Li Junxing carrying a girl out, he couldn't hide the surprise in his eyes. He couldn't help but take another look. Li Junxing glanced at the driver. Just that glance made the driver shrink his neck and quickly open the car door. After Li Junxing got into the car, he quickly ran to the front seat to drive. Yizhen was in Li Junxing's arms. She was drunk, so Li Junxing held her waist and let her lean against him. Where are you taking me? How did I bully you? Li Junxing couldn't help but laugh because of Yizhen's question. Didn't I say that I would send you home? You haven't told me how I bullied you. His voice was very gentle, but the way he looked at her had a probing look that she could hardly detect. You kissed me. Yizhen blinked as if she suddenly remembered. You touched me. Just now, when his hand touched her thigh, she was scared to death. She was really afraid that someone would see through it. Is this bullying you? Yes. Yizhen nodded very seriously. You took advantage of me. Kissing you and touching you is taking advantage of you. Yes. Just like that, Yizhen pushed his chest away as she spoke. She pressed her hands against his shoulders, not letting him get too close to her. You're a bad person anyway. A bad person. Taking advantage of me. You're not a good person. Li Junxing looked at her little face. The little girl probably didn't know what she looked like when she was drunk. Her blurry eyes, flushed cheeks, and slightly pursed red lips. His eyes darkened a little. He reached out and gently caressed her lips. Kissing you makes me not a good person. Yizhen nodded. Before she could say anything, Li Junxing had already kissed her lips. It was a tortuous, delicate, and lingering kiss. It wrapped her in layers. Her eyes widened, and her mind started to become a little muddled because of the alcohol. She subconsciously felt that this was wrong, but his kiss made her intoxicated. She gradually lost her strength, and her mind became more and more muddled. She began to have difficulty breathing, and she let out a soft whimper. Li Junxing let go of her and pressed his forehead against hers. He looked at the little girl's little face that became redder and redder because of his kiss. I kissed you because I like you. Can't I do that? Yizhen frowned. He liked her. Don't you like my kiss? Don't you like it? I don't. The word like was kissed away by him again. He tried his best to seduce her. That fiery kiss made her lose consciousness, and her thoughts were in a mess. After the kiss ended, his breathing became a little chaotic. Do you like me kissing you? Yizhen felt her mouth dry. She wanted to shake her head, but she nodded. I do. Look, you like me kissing you. And I followed your liking, and followed my liking, and kissed you. Is this still taking advantage of you? It didn't seem like it. But it seemed like it. Yizhen wasn't sure either. She tried her best to shake her head, trying to keep herself awake. However, she found that because she shook her head, she became even more dizzy. Xinjin, you like me. Right? Yizhen looked at him, bit her lip, and refused to answer this question. Li Junxing wasn't in a hurry. He had time and patience today. The car stopped downstairs of Li Junxing's apartment. Li Junxing carried Yizhen out of the car and went upstairs. When they entered the room, Yizhen had already closed her eyes. She seemed to be sleepy, but she also seemed to want to sleep. The moment her body was placed on the bed, she woke up and saw Li Junxing's enlarged face in front of her. She seemed to remember her initial insistence. I want to go home. Be good, you're home. Yizhen looked around and blinked. This isn't my house. It's your house. It will be in the future. In the future. Could it be counted like that? Yizhen's consciousness became more and more blurry. I want to go home. Yizhen tried her best to sit up, but when she got up, she accidentally bumped into Li Junxing's lips. Her eyes widened. There was still the smell of alcohol on Li Junxing's lips. She frowned slightly, as if she didn't understand. You kissed me on your own accord. As Li Junxing spoke, he pinched the back of her head and deepened the kiss. She didn't. Yizhen wanted to deny it. But the feeling of their lips touching was too wonderful. She did like his kiss in her heart. At first, she resisted, then she obeyed, and then she took the initiative. When Li Junqing retreated, he found that not only was Yizhen's face red, but even her neck was red. Did you not eat your fill just now? Yes. After only drinking a bowl of soup, she was indeed a little hungry. Then is my mouth delicious? As Li Junqing spoke, his fingertips carefully traced the shape of her lips. His eyes, which had always been smiling, now had a hint of seduction. Yes. Yizhen nodded. His mouth was indeed delicious. As if to confirm her words, she even kissed him on the lips again. Then, do you want to eat other parts of my body? Other parts? How? Yizhen didn't quite understand. She blinked at Li Junqing. She vaguely knew that such a move didn't seem appropriate. Chapter 776. She knew in her heart that things were developing in the direction of losing control, and she was powerless to control it. I'll teach you, and you'll know. The little girl was still conflicted, but Li Junqing wouldn't give her a chance to retreat. Li Junqing kissed her again. Yizhen looked up at him, her eyes full of confusion. You'll teach me. Yes. I'll teach you how to eat me. Yizhen hesitated. Her last trace of rationality made her unable to agree easily. She had a feeling that if she agreed, something terrible would happen. It was an intuition, an instinctive awareness of danger. The little girl was still hesitating at this time. The smile on Li Junqing's lips became brighter. He hugged her body and laid her flat on the bed. Then, he stacked himself on top of her. You're very delicious too. I still want to eat you. Eat me. Yizhen was shocked. No, don't. I'm not delicious. Don't eat me. Okay, then I won't eat you. You'll eat me instead. Is that okay? Then, if I eat you, you'll feel pain. I'll teach you how to eat me so that I won't feel pain and you'll be happy. Li Junqing exerted his utmost patience. He had never thought that one day, he would actually seduce a woman like this. She was still a little girl who had almost no experience in matters between men and women. However, Li Junqing didn't feel that he was despicable. The little girl was too slow to react to matters of the heart. If he let her always think about it clearly, or if she found an opportunity to escape from his side, then he would really lose more than he gained. The best way was to make her completely his. She couldn't escape from his palm, and he would make her completely belong to him. Yizhen fell into deep thought because of the word happy. Like just now. Yes. Okay. Yizhen nodded, but she was a little afraid. You have to teach me seriously. I'm afraid of pain. I will. Li Junqing kissed her lips again, and the last word disappeared into her lips. I'll teach you. I won't make you feel pain. Instead, I'll make you very happy. Yizhen was relieved. She didn't realize what she had agreed to, nor did she realize what she had promised. She was like an obedient kitten, listening to Li Junqing's guidance and learning how to eat him. Yes, she was eaten by him. The night was long, and he was in no mood to sleep. That night, Yizhen turned into a fish. As the waves of the sea continued to rush towards the shore, they were continuously swept into the sea. Are you happy? Yizhen had lost all rationality. He had no way to answer his question. Then, am I delicious? Oh. That seemed to be a good idea. She didn't answer, but Li Junqing didn't give up. Back and forth, he repeatedly questioned her, stubbornly wanting her to submit to him. As for whether or not it would come to fruition, only the moon would know. Yizhen felt like he had been dreaming the whole night. In her dream, she was chased by a ferocious beast. She couldn't escape no matter how hard she tried. That ferocious beast was extremely powerful. He chased her up mountains and down seas. No matter how hard she tried, she couldn't escape. Later, she was overtaken and eaten by wild beasts until not even her bones were left. She was scared to death, but she couldn't wake up no matter what. Therefore, after a whole night of sleep, he still felt tired. He would wake up in a daze. Only then did he realize that he hadn't felt this way for a long time. He had a splitting headache. The bones in his body felt as if someone had taken them apart and reassembled them. He could hardly open his eyes. His body also felt like it wasn't his own. The strange feeling in his body woke her up. When he opened his eyes, he was in a completely unfamiliar environment. She was shocked. She wanted to get up, but there was a pain in that unspeakable place. Hiss, Yijin sucked in a breath of cold air. At this moment, the door of the room was opened, and footsteps approached. "You're awake." The gentle voice was like jade striking each other. She looked at the person who came. Li Junqing. Not feeling well. He held a bowl in his hand. "This tea can sober you up. Get up and drink some." Yijin didn't move. Her mind was a little sluggish. Why was Li Junqing here? No, she should ask, why was she here with Li Junqing? She remembered that she was having dinner with President Ning yesterday, but Li Junqing came. Then, do you like me kissing you? Do you want to eat me? I'm very delicious. I'll teach you how to eat me. How about this? Are you comfortable? Do you like it? Those extremely shameful scenes, conversations, and, you. Yijin opened her mouth, her voice hoarse. She gritted her teeth and glared at the man in front of her. Li Junqing helped her up. Come, drink this. His voice was very gentle, and his expression was also very gentle. But now, to Yijin, the man in front of her was almost like a demon. She was thirsty, so she didn't refuse the bowl that he handed to her lips for the time being. The tea with a strange taste entered her throat. She felt much better. Li Junqing fed her the hangover tea and put the bowl aside. Do you want to sleep for a while, or do you want to get up and eat breakfast before going to sleep? I have to go to work. Yijin softened her voice. She was still in Li Junqing's arms. She tried to retreat from his arms. However, her limbs were really weak. She secretly gritted her teeth. The man in front of her really proved what a beast in human clothing was. Who knew? He was gentle under the suit and leather shoes, but he was actually like that in bed. Thinking of last night's experience, she became even more angry. She couldn't care less about her physical discomfort and insisted on leaving his arms. As soon as his feet touched the ground, his body went limp and he fell forward. Li Junqing quickly scooped her body back into his arms and put her back on the bed. How are you going to work like this? Be good, be obedient and rest first. It's none of your business. Yijin gritted her teeth, her heart filled with hatred. Even though her hands were weak, she still pushed him away. This time, he didn't wait for her to get out of bed. Li Junqing held her shoulder first and looked into her eyes. Are you angry? Angry? Yijin sneered. What right do I have to be angry? You're the mayor. It's my honor to be visited by you. How dare I be angry with you? She still said she wasn't angry. Sorry, I was too radical yesterday. But, Mayor Li, Yijin waved his hand away from her shoulder. This simple action made a certain part of her hurt. She gritted her teeth and her gaze became a little defensive. You've already gotten what you wanted. Can you let me leave now? Even though she had drunk tea, her voice was still a little hoarse. She couldn't help but remember why her voice was hoarse. She had shouted too much yesterday. That was a completely uncontrollable physiological reaction. He kept taking it, and she kept begging for mercy. After the effect of the alcohol subsided, she still had some consciousness. However, by then, it was already too late. I don't want it anymore. Uncle Lee, I don't want it anymore. She remembered that she had been tormented by him until she couldn't make any other sounds other than begging for mercy and shouting. She shook her head and cleared those shameful images from her mind. She moved towards the bed again. A hand appeared on her waist. In the next second, Li Junxing carried her onto his lap. Mayor Li, last night, you still called me Uncle Li. You changed it today. Li Junxing looked at the coldness in her eyes. His eyes were still smiling, and his voice sounded like he was teasing her. Yizhen became more and more annoyed. How can I still call you uncle now? Have you ever seen an uncle do such a thing to his niece? Angry. Yizhen gritted her teeth. The emotions that she had been restraining and suppressing just now finally couldn't help but flare up. Can't I be angry? Mayor Li, tell me, can't I be angry? What was the difference between your actions last night and luring them out? Tell me. Tell me. The smile on Li Junxing's face disappeared. His lips pursed into a straight line as he stared at Yizhen's face. Yizhen felt uncomfortable under his gaze, but she refused to give in no matter what. You're my elder. I call you uncle, but you did such a thing to me. Do you think I can't be angry? After she finished shouting, she realized that a certain part of her body started to feel uncomfortable again, and her expression became uglier. Li Junxing noticed that she frowned slightly at that moment. What he was about to say stopped there. He put her back on the bed and pressed down on her shoulder when she was about to get up. Don't move. Yizhen didn't understand what else he wanted. After shouting that sentence, she realized how weak she was now. She hated Li Junxing more and more in her heart. As for whether this hatred was because of his actions yesterday or because of something else, she didn't want to think about it. Li Junxing went out and soon returned. He was holding a can of ointment in his hand. Yizhen quickly understood what he was going to do. She was very resistant. Unfortunately, when she had her martial arts skills yesterday, she wasn't his match. Now that her body had been ruthlessly taken by him, she was even less of a match. No matter how angry she was with him, she felt much better after applying the ointment. He put the ointment aside and went to the bathroom to wash his hands. Then, he returned to the room and sat down by the bed. He held her hand on the quilt and wrapped her hand tightly in his palm. As for seniority, I've already told you about it. That's not important at all. Yesterday was indeed my fault. But I don't regret it. Because I like you. Looking at Yizhen's shocked eyes, he lowered his head and kissed her lips. Xinjin, I like you. For a moment, Yizhen thought that she was hearing things. How was that possible? Li Junxing liked her. That was impossible. She didn't believe it. I didn't think it through properly to do such a thing to you without your consent. Holding her hand, he brought it to his lips and kissed it gently. Li Junxing's gaze looked extremely serious at this moment. But if I didn't do this, you would probably have run away. Who? Ran away. Yizhen bit her lip and looked at him with a faint accusatory gaze. Don't deny it. Li Junxing pinched her palm. I asked you out yesterday, but you refused. You clearly wanted to reject me, didn't you? That's because Yizhen gritted her teeth, and her voice became much colder. That's because you just wanted to play with me. If I didn't reject you, would I have let you take advantage of me like you did yesterday? It was too late to say that now. What was going to happen had already happened. Thinking of this, she became more and more annoyed. Li Junxing looked at the cold expression on her face and raised his eyebrows. Who told you that I was just playing with you? Isn't it? Yijin bit her lip, and there was a hint of accusation in her eyes. You asked me to pretend to be your girlfriend, but you often touched me and took advantage of me. You were just playing with me. You still want to lie to me. Li Junxing had set his goal since he was young. After graduating from university. From the local to the city, from this place to that place. He had seen many people, and he thought that he already had the calmness of Mount Tai collapsing in front of him. However, when he met the accusation in the little girl's eyes, he almost couldn't control the expression on his face. His silence was a tacit agreement. Yijin gritted her teeth and didn't want to continue talking to him. Her body was already much better after applying the medicine. She silently wanted to get up and leave. Li Junxing held her shoulders down again. He held her in his arms. I lied to you. How did I lie to you? When did I ask you to pretend to be my girlfriend? Li Junxing reminded her softly. The little girl's memory wasn't very good. He felt that he might be very tired in the future. However, he was willing. Yijin couldn't answer. She recalled the previous time. It seemed that he wasn't the one who said that. She was the one who said that she was willing to pretend to be his girlfriend. You're the one who said that. Sensing that the person in his arms wasn't paying attention, Li Junxing bit her lips as a punishment. It wasn't heavy, but it successfully made Yijin glare at him. I just didn't object. Isn't that, it's different. Li Junxing looked at the little girl's angry expression and couldn't help but kiss her lips again. If there's nothing wrong with your memory, then remember that before you said you wanted to pretend to be my girlfriend, I told you very seriously that I wanted to date you. He seemed to have said that. I even said that if you didn't want to date me, we could just get our marriage certificate. Are you suspecting that I have a hidden illness? Do I have a hidden illness? Yijin's face was red. After last night, how could she still suspect that there was something wrong with him? Her face was red. She was really embarrassed. She couldn't wait to escape from his arms. Tell me, do you still think I have a hidden illness? Yijin couldn't speak. She tried to leave his arms, but Li Junxing didn't give her a chance. In addition, she wasn't wearing any clothes. After this, she suddenly realized something that couldn't be said. Li Junxing enjoyed her frightened expression and pulled the blanket over to wrap her body. Your tongue was bitten off by the cat. Why aren't you saying anything? Say what? He had finished speaking. No. Yijin looked up, her cheeks still puffed up. I didn't promise you. She seemed to suddenly have the courage to resist. She tried hard to stay away from him and keep a distance from him. I didn't promise to date you. I didn't promise you that. What happened yesterday was too shameful. She couldn't say it out loud. In short, you're wrong. Ever since she lost her mother in her teens, she had always been stubborn and strong-willed. This was the first time she had used such a rascally tone. Li Junxing narrowed his eyes and looked at the little girl's unconfident reaction. Then what is it? Yijin gritted her teeth. Her face was as red as blood. You know the answer. How would I know if you don't tell me? Li Junxing lifted her chin with one hand and looked at the little girl who was so embarrassed that she didn't even dare to look at him. Don't touch me. Okay, I won't touch you. It was rare for him to be so easy to talk to, so Yijin looked at him suspiciously. Thinking of his beastly behavior last night, she still didn't believe that he would let her go just like that. Li Junxing knew what she was thinking just by looking at her eyes. Yesterday, he had been a vegetarian for too long and couldn't restrain himself. How could he know that Yijin, who looked healthy and energetic, had such poor stamina? Perhaps he should let her go to the gym to work out. Or should she wake up with him every morning to work out? Your stamina is really bad. His voice was very soft, but Yijin still heard it. She wanted to say that her stamina wasn't bad at all. It was clearly because his stamina was too good. However, this topic was a little dirty. She shook her head and decided to ignore it. Uncle Lee, I realized that you seem to be very free. Don't you need to go to work? It wasn't the weekend today, was it? Yes. Li Junxing nodded. I've asked for leave. He turned her face to face him. His voice was gentle that she had never expected. I'm afraid that if I go to work and you don't see me when you wake up, you'll be afraid. Yijin felt that her face was starting to burn again. She glared at him. Who's afraid? Yes, I'm afraid. Li Junxing looked at her and felt his heart soften. I'm afraid that you won't be able to find me when you wake up. Then, you'll misunderstand me again. Look, I haven't done anything yet. You're just putting some groundless charges on me. If I really do something, are you going to ignore me in the future? Yijin's voice was very soft. Who put the charges on you? It was always the case. She felt pain when he bit her lip, and her eyes were filled with grievance. She was really a delicate person. Li Junxing kissed her lips gently to make her feel better. His forehead pressed against hers, and his voice softened. If you don't believe me, why don't I accompany you home now to get your ID and household register? Shall we go get our marriage certificate? No, Yijin answered quickly. She hadn't thought about it yet. The hesitation in her eyes was so obvious. She was obviously hesitating about her relationship with him. Realizing that she had answered too quickly, Yijin added a few words embarrassedly, I'm still young. I haven't thought about getting married yet. Besides, it's too fast. Li Junxing looked at her. He thought of her background and her relationship with Yi Nanshan. He wasn't angry, but he felt a slight pain in his heart. His little girl. Okay, if you think it's too fast, we can slow down a little. He kissed her lips again. But there's one thing. If I just want to play with you, I won't bring you home. Yijin didn't expect him to be so serious. She thought that he was just saying it. His attitude now seemed to be certain of her. Yijin realized this, but she didn't feel happy. Instead, she felt nervous. They had only known each other for a short time, so short that Yijin couldn't trust him at all. Chapter 777. She thought of what Ling Xian had said, and, you don't believe me. The little girl's face was full of doubt, which made Li Junxing a little dissatisfied. He couldn't help but pinch her palm hard. I believe you. Now that she was in his arms and seeing the way he was staring at her, Yijin had every reason to believe that if she dared to say that she didn't believe him, he might press her down and do it again like yesterday. She couldn't take it. Li Junxing looked at Yijin's eyes and knew very well that she was just saying that she believed him. His eyes darkened slightly. He was more patient with Yijin than he thought. Just believe me. Yijin didn't say anything. Her heart was filled with uncertainty. But feeling his embrace and his aura, she told herself that maybe she could try to believe him once. Sensing the subtle change in her emotions, Li Junxing's eyes smiled. He hugged her tightly. Yijin moved her body uncomfortably. It's hot. You're hot just like that. Li Junxing leaned close to her ear. Then what I'm going to do later will make you hotter. Yijin's face turned pale and she looked at him pitifully. Don't come. It hurts. Actually, it didn't hurt that much. It was just that she didn't have any strength. Li Junxing looked at the sly look in her eyes and didn't expose her. However, he still bit her lips as if he was punishing her. I'll let you go. He put her back on the bed. He stared at her smooth and round shoulders. And Yizhen was a little nervous again because of his actions. Although it wasn't her first time last night, it was really too hard for him to torment her. She wanted to ask him to let her go, but Li Junxing pulled up the blanket and covered her. You didn't sleep much yesterday. Rest a little more. Yizhen blinked at him. Li Junxing kissed her forehead. I have something to do later. I have to go deal with it. Wait for me to come back at noon and we can eat together. Yizhen knew that Li Junxing was actually very busy. He stayed behind today because he wanted to accompany her. She knew it. You go. I'll sleep a little more. Be good. After pecking her lips, Li Junxing got up and left. The room quieted down. Yizhen's body was actually very tired and uncomfortable, but she couldn't fall asleep. She had a surreal feeling. From yesterday until now, everything was like a dream. Li Junxing said that he liked her. Li Junxing said that he was serious about her. He even talked about marriage. Yizhen felt his entire face begin to heat up. He pulled up the blanket to cover his face, unable to restrain his emotions from bubbling. That kind of joy that comes from the heart is the feeling of love, right? Yizhen was awakened by the ringing of his phone. When she opened her eyes, she didn't see Li Junxing. Yizhen frowned when he saw that the clock was pointing at 2 in the afternoon. Her phone was still ringing, so she picked it up. It was a call from the food delivery company. She said that the delivery was at the door and asked her to open the door. Yizhen got up and looked at himself. He found a bathrobe and put it on before going to open the door. The person outside the door was Li Junxing's driver. He was holding several bags in his hands. Miss Yi, Mayor Li is busy and can't come back for the time being. He asked me to bring you food. The driver looked at Yizhen's bathrobe and quickly lowered his eyes, not daring to look again. He just handed the things in his hands to Yizhen. Yizhen took it and couldn't help but ask after thanking him, "What's the matter with Uncle Li?" "I'm sorry, Miss Yi. I'm not too sure about that. I'm just following his instructions and coming over to bring you food. Also, this is my phone number. Mayor Li said that if you need a car, let me send you." "Okay, I understand. Thank you. I don't need it for the time being. You can go back first." After sending the driver away, she carried the takeout into the door and placed it on the dining table. In addition to the takeout, there were also clothes. From the inside out, it was a set of women's clothes. Looking at the takeout box, she couldn't help but feel a little disappointed. He had clearly said that he would come back to eat with her. After thinking for a moment, she called Li Junxing. The phone rang for a long time before the other side picked it up, but it wasn't Li Junxing's voice. "Hello." The unfamiliar voice stunned Yizhen. "Are you Secretary Qin?" "Miss Yi, right?" "That's me. I want to ask, where's Mayor Li?" "Miss Yi, Mayor Li is busy. He'll call you when he's done." "Okay." Yizhen suppressed the disappointment in her heart. She knew what kind of person Li Junxing was. As the mayor of a city, he usually had a lot of things to do. As for her, she would just be a sensible girlfriend. When Yizhen came out of the Jianghui Company building, she suddenly felt like she was being watched, as if someone was staring at her. She looked around but didn't see anyone. It was time to get off work, and there were a lot of people coming and going. She looked around again, and the feeling of being spied on just now disappeared. She shook her head. Perhaps her feeling was wrong. Then, she got into Li Junxing's car. "What are you looking at?" Nothing. Perhaps she had seen wrongly. However, she had had this feeling from time to time in the past 2 days. Are you done? When she left Li Juanxing's apartment the afternoon before yesterday, he hadn't returned yet. Later, Yizhen left on her own. Li Juanxing hadn't come to look for her in the past 2 days. She only found out from the news that someone from the province had come. As the mayor, Li Juanxing needed to accompany him. It was only when she saw Li Juanxing on the news that she clearly realized that this man was the mayor of a city. In private, his gentleness often made her forget Li Juanxing's identity. Yes. I'm done for the time being. Li Juanxing smiled as he pulled her hand over and kissed it. What do you mean you're done for the time being? I mean, the inspection team hasn't left yet, so I took some time out today. Yizhen thought about the news of the past few days. Today, she would accompany him for an inspection, and tomorrow, there would be a meeting. He should be really busy. Actually, if you're really busy, you can come to look for me after you're done. That won't do. Li Juanxing leaned over and kissed her on the lips. We just confirmed our relationship. If I don't come to look for you, I'm afraid you'll forget about me later. Yeah, if you don't come to look for me, I'll forget about you. Yizhen joked with him. God knew. How could she forget him after he left such a deep mark on her body? Li Juanxing narrowed his eyes and pulled her into his arms. Little heartless. It looks like I'm going to deepen your memory today. The hint in his words made Yizhen blush. She retreated from his arms in embarrassment. I'm joking. My memory is already very deep. There's no need to deepen it any further. No, I don't think it's deep enough. Li Juanxing pulled her body back into his arms. So, don't think about escaping tonight. Yizhen lay on the bed and watched Li Juanxing stand in front of the mirror. He was dressed in a suit and leather shoes. The corners of his lips were slightly pursed, and he looked abstinent. This man had a perfect reaction. What did it mean to be thin with clothes on and fat without clothes on? Who would know? Mayor Li, who looked thin and slender, had a good figure. Sensing her gaze, Li Juanxing turned around and stood in front of the bed. It's the weekend today. Sleep a little more. He bent down and kissed her forehead. I might be back very late. It's okay. I'll be home later. Yizhen's voice was lazy. Yesterday, Li Juanxing had really used his actions to prove to her how to deepen her impression. She had just started to learn about men and women, but she had met Li Juanxing. He had led her to unlock all kinds of positions. Now, she felt like her waist was about to break. I'll leave Xiao Zhou with you. Let him send you home. No. Yizhen refused. Isn't it forbidden to use the public car for private purposes? It doesn't count. Li Juanxing didn't expect her to say such a thing. Xiao Zhou is receiving my salary, and I bought the car myself, so it doesn't count as private use of the public car. There were drivers assigned by the higher-ups, but Li Juanxing was used to using his own people. Especially since he was careless last time and fell into those people's trap. Although that time gave him a surprise. Thinking of this, he couldn't help but kiss Yizhen's lips again. Yizhen pushed him away. Aren't you going out? Hurry up and leave. Li Juanxing looked at the time and gently scratched her nose. It seems that I was too gentle to you yesterday. You're in good spirits. Yizhen turned around and decided to ignore him. How was it gentle? How was it gentle? All right, although it was actually gentle, she was still very tired, okay? Little heartless girl, you don't recognize me as soon as you get out of bed? Looking at her back, Li Juanxing felt that it was interesting. He leaned over and kissed her shoulder. Yijin could only turn around and glare at him. Aren't you going out? Hurry up and leave. Li Junxing wasn't in a hurry to leave. Instead, he sat down by the bed. Now I know why the ancient said that the spring night is short and the sun rises high. From then on, the king won't have early court. I don't want to go to work now. Yijin listened to his shameful words and felt that if Li Junxing's side was seen by others, it would definitely be disillusioned. Seeing Li Junxing pinching her palm, she rolled her eyes and suddenly lifted the blanket. Then, she posed like a mermaid in a movie. Since Uncle Li doesn't want to go to work, then don't go, right? She supported her forehead with one hand, and the blanket only covered a little above her navel. There were still traces of yesterday on her body. The little girl looked at him seductively. Li Junxing felt his throat tighten. He leaned down and pressed the little girl under his body, kissing her lips hard. It was different from the previous coaxing and gentleness from yesterday. The man in front of him was obviously very eager. She could feel his eagerness. There was a smile in Yijin's eyes. She pushed him away from her with both hands. Uncle Li, you're late for work. Li Junxing glared at Yijin. His breathing was a little heavy. How could a man who had just started sex be able to withstand her deliberate teasing? He thought it was a little girl, but he didn't expect it to be a little vixen. He bent down and kissed her lips again. The big hand had also pinched her somewhere. She felt pain. He retreated half a step and bit her lips. Little vixen, wait for me to come back and deal with you. Li Junxing didn't have much time. There were 2 work report meetings and 2 inspection teams in the city today. He really didn't have time to stay. The little girl knew this, so she was fearless. Yijin smiled. She pulled up the blanket and covered herself. She was quite satisfied with the influence she had caused. After he left, the house suddenly quietened down. Yijin turned around and smelled Li Junxing's scent on the blanket. The cool smell was very pleasant. It was just like the feeling Li Junxing gave her. But that was just on the surface. In private, that man, thinking of the inappropriate scenes yesterday, Yijin not only blushed, but also felt like her body was about to burn. Their development seemed to be too fast. And such rapid development, she actually didn't feel annoyed. Her face turned red again. She turned around and buried her face in the pillow. Yijin slept in Li Junxing's apartment until the afternoon. She only woke up when Li Junxing called her to wake up for dinner. Don't keep sleeping. It's not good for your health. Get up and walk around. I don't know when I can go home today. There was a problem with the factory that he had arranged to inspect, so he couldn't leave now. It's okay. You can do your work. Although she was a little disappointed, Yijin knew how busy Li Junxing was. Looking at the empty room, Yijin was in the mood to go shopping. She called Ling Xian and asked her to go shopping with her. After buying a lot of trophies, she refused Ling Xian's offer to send her home. Instead, she sent the things to Li Junxing's apartment. There would definitely be more opportunities to stay here in the future. It was better for her to make some preparations just in case. That night, Li Junxing didn't come back. The day before, the 2 of them were still in bed. Today, she was the only one who couldn't sleep. It seemed that she still needed to adapt to Li Junxing's identity as mayor as soon as possible. The next day was Sunday. After Yijin got up, she went straight to see her grandfather, Lu Manjiang. Last time, Li Junxing provided her with a feasible solution. She wanted to turn Yinanshan's shares into hers. She really didn't want to let Chen Wan and her daughter benefit. After talking to her grandfather and uncle, she told the 2 elders what she wanted to do. Lu Manjiang had no objections, and Lu Zhishuan fully supported it. Neither of them liked the fact that Yi Nanshan had cheated on them during the duration of their marriage. If it weren't for their granddaughter. Lu Manjiang and Lu Jixuan had already settled the score with Yi Nanshan. Now that their granddaughter wanted to get back her rights, they didn't think it was wrong. Back then, if Yi Nanshan hadn't tricked Lu Hui with flowery words and made her marry a man of low status, it would have made Lu Hui wholeheartedly plot for Yi Nanshan. Lu Hui used the Lu family's connections to bring the company to its current scale for Yi Nanshan. In the end, Yi Nanshan changed his face after gaining status. In this life, for Lu Manjiang, it was his greatest pain to see his son die. He told Yijin that no matter what she planned to do, he would support her. Not only would he support her, but the entire Lu family would support Yijin. With the support of her grandfather and uncle, Yijin was very touched. If possible, she didn't want to fall out with Yi Nanshan. If Yi Nanshan didn't make things difficult for her again and again, making it difficult for her to move forward in the company. Yijin stayed at her grandfather's house for dinner before returning home. She was in a good mood. When she returned home, seeing Chen Wan and her daughter sitting in the living room didn't affect her mood. Yi Nanshan wasn't there, so Yijin didn't need to worry about anything. Therefore, she didn't even look at them and went upstairs. Sister. Yi Ningyan stood up and stood in front of her. Why did you come back so late? Don't you know that we were waiting for you for dinner tonight? Yijin turned her face to look at her, and there was a hint of mockery in her eyes. You were waiting for me for dinner. Was she listening to a joke? Of course. Yi Ningyan nodded. Even if there wasn't, she had to say that there was. You didn't answer the phone. There are so many of us waiting for you. Sister, it's not good, is it? Sorry, I didn't hear the phone ring. Even if she heard it, she didn't want to answer it. She didn't want to be ruined by Yi Ningyan's phone call when she was spending time with her real family. Sister, where did you go tonight? You haven't been home for dinner for several days. Not only did she not go home for dinner, but she didn't go home to stay. Does it have anything to do with you? Yijin never gave Yi Ningyan face. She was already being polite by not giving her face. Sister, no matter what, I'm still your sister. Is it wrong for me to care about you? Stop. Yijin couldn't listen to it anymore. I've said it before. My mother only gave birth to me. You can stop calling me sister. Sister. Yi Ningyan seemed to be provoked by her, and she looked like she was about to fall. Yijin couldn't stand her behavior. In fact, Yi Ningyan had a sweet and beautiful appearance. She put on such a weak appearance, which really didn't match her character. Yi Ningyan, put away the way you deal with men. I'm not like those admirers of yours. I'll feel pity for you. Yi Ningyan originally wanted to accuse her, but because of Yijin's words, her face turned green. She stood there, not knowing whether to advance or retreat. Yijin didn't care about her at all. He walked past her and went upstairs. Chen Wan had been sitting on the side without any direction. When Yi Ningyan waited for Yijin to leave, she immediately went to sit in front of her. Mom, look at Yijin. In private, Yi Ningyan would never call Yijin sister. Chen Wan glanced at her daughter. She wasn't like Yi Ningyan, who couldn't see such an obvious thing. Mom, Yijin is really too much. Didn't you notice that there's something wrong with her? Chen Wan interrupted her daughter's words. When Yijin entered the door just now, she gave off a different feeling than usual. When Yi Ningyan entered the door just now, she only cared about the new clothes she was wearing. It was a new style from Xiangjia. She hadn't had time to buy it yet. Who knew that it would be worn by Yijin? You only know how to wear clothes. Chen Wan was quite resentful of her daughter. Didn't you notice? That wicked girl with a smile in her eyes, looks like, After all, her daughter wasn't married yet, so Chenwan couldn't say some things too clearly. Don't you think that wicked girl seems to be in love? In love. Speaking of this, Yi Ningen became even angrier. Isn't she in love? I got reliable news. Sister really hooked up with Mayor Li and is even with him. You're tuning into the LoveLore Library YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.